Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 232. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge on the comics forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-hosts, Jim. Sean, please stop trying to sign me up for the Thunder Agents. So says the Sensei of the Whatnot, Segulin, and the Duke of You-Know.
How's it going, eh?
But Jim, trust me, the Thunder Agents, it's you. It's your chance to work for the government, to do something special that will set you aside, to give you distinction.
Hey, what happened to the guy I'm replacing?
Jim, that doesn't matter right now. What matters is that he was a hero, and you too could be a hero, just like the other Thunder Agents that have come before you.
I think we need another Timmy.
Timmy? Who's Timmy? You mean Kenny?
No, I was thinking Timmy from Dinosaurs.
I see exactly what you're talking about now. Okay. On this episode, we're actually discussing a whole bunch of books. This wound up being a casual conversation. We're going to have Myron Rumsey join us again, and this actually recording came at the last minute. I've been sick the past couple of weeks to the point where I barely had a voice, and this was our chance to record tonight. So we recorded something really quick where we covered quite a few books that I'm glad we got a chance to talk about, because it wound up being a chance for us to spotlight some titles, first of all, that were high-end, that we thought were interesting, but also some smaller titles that we wanted to make sure we got some notice in, and some of the special 75th anniversary books that have come out that we thought people should know that are out there, and that maybe you might want to consider picking up and grabbing. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. I want to remind everyone that this month on DCBService.com, 45% off on all the DC titles. This is a great month to try out some of these monthly books that maybe you haven't tried before. 45% off is a big savings. So check out DCBService.com if you haven't checked them yet. It's a special offer that they're doing this month, but it's a great opportunity for those of you like, I've always wanted to try this title, but it doesn't fit into my budget. With the new price change, with everything going from all the titles that were $3.99 now down to $2.99, and now 45% off for this month, this is a good chance for try some different titles, maybe some things that you've been on the fence about checking out. So thank you, DCBService.com, once again for providing that great discount this month. Over at InStockTrades.com, I've been picking up a lot of books like Batman the Brave and the Bold, for example, from the Johnny DC line. This is Batman the Brave and the Bold, Fearsome Fang Strikes, and this is collecting issues 7 to 12 of the series with the help of heroes including Green Arrow, Catman, the Doom Patrol, the Atom, Adam Strange, and more, along with appearances by Two-Face, the Joker. One of the great things about this, I really liked the cartoon Brave and the Bold, and this series really captures what I've been enjoying about that cartoon. The writers, Landry Q. Walker and Jay Torres, artists such as Eric Jones, Carlo Barbieri, and others. It's 128 pages, $12.99 regularly, 38% off, only $8.05. It's a great book. Don't let the all ages label frighten you. If you're enjoying the cartoon series, you're really going to really enjoy this book because it's got that same vibe and feel to it. And I feel this is something that's really improved on this series as it's gone along. And for me with this, I know this cartoon's going to be coming to an end quite soon. I really enjoy getting more content from that series because I'm enjoying the flavor of it. And it's something, when it's done, I'll be glad to have the episodes of the cartoon along with these comics as a way to enjoy it. But this is an affordable way to grab that. At $8.05, you're really getting a lot of content for $8.05. So it's a cool way to try out the series on a budget. So give this one a shot if you haven't been. And thank you, InStockTrades.com, for those great discounts. Remember, orders of $50 or more, free shipping. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
You know, the funny thing about this is Jim and I haven't, since New York Comic Con, recorded in person together. We've been doing it all over Skype. This is the first time. And since before New York, it's been quite a while since I think you and I have sat here in this room together and recorded. So, and we were both talking about how great it was to be able to do this. They go get Subway, hang out, chat, then record. So you're doing hand motions when you're doing your spoiler warning, which is I thought you were going to start flying in a second or two there. I'm like, what's going on? Enjoy.
And here's the funny thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm about to say.
What were you going to say?
I do this. I do all the hand motions when I'm at home.
Do you really? That little...
Oh, yeah, joy or, you know, or...
But it really looked like you were like sitting there like ready to take flight. You know, dun,
Yes.
Because you really had this whole thing. The right arm was flying up in the air, and the left arm was cocked back, like you were, you know, trying to make sure you had a limited amount of wind resistance going on by your whole motions right there. So that was the most aerodynamic spoiler warning I think I've ever seen out of you. Without further ado, let's talk some comics.
Raging Blitz Podcast. You like comics, you like free, you like us.
Jim, was funny when we were talking about books that we wanted to chat about. I was thinking, I've been Bat happy, obviously, because we've talked about it a lot on the show, and as a Batman fan, as that being my leading character, I was surprised at what my favorite Batman book has been this past couple weeks. The one that really hit me was Red Robin number 17. And it had all the right beats that I was looking for from Bruce Wayne. And it was funny how it all came from Tim's perspective of it. And this issue by Fabian Nicieza, Marcus Tu, and Ray McCarthy, and the whole creative team, they really crafted something here. It's been a series that I've been digging all the way through. It was great, though, to see Bruce in this. So it was the Bruce moments for me, but I'm sure for you, obviously, the Tim moments as well.
It's funny when we were talking and you said that. I tried to downplay a little bit. I wasn't gonna. I knew there's no way I would convince you that I didn't like it. But the fact that I really did downplay how much I loved this title, and I was kind of shocked to hear you say it was your top of the bats because it was clearly mine. And when I got done reading it, a couple things. First, I said one. I was like, Tim is back. Because this is the fun Tim that I so wanted as his pal. I wanted to see this kid come back. Now I've loved the story leading up to this. It's been great till where it went downhill a little bit for him. He went a little darker place, and he needed to for the story. Now that the story's played out, now that Bruce back, now we're starting to see Tim come back. But it's still not just he's still thinking, he's still planning, he's still that same forward thinker who is the heir to the cowl. The next Batman in my mind always will be Tim.
Even though there is a next Batman.
Even though there is a next Batman, I know. I'm talking the future. I'm talking down the ways right. After when Dick Grayson has to retire. I keep always thinking Tim will step in because he's got that same mindset that Bruce does, but he still has that positive outlook and that energetic spirit that makes Robin such a necessity to Batman. Now he's called Red Robin now, but he still has that same fire and that same energy that I was like, dang, this character's cool. Plus, I was loving the artwork. This is another one of those things where the written word, the story being told, and the visual story being told was such a wonderful meshing that I was like, yes, I have a Tim Drake Wayne title that I was like, yeah. And it was funny because I was sitting there going, I'm like, hey, guess what? Looks like Secret Six has some competition now. It's not my number one title yet, but you know what? This could now be in the running because for the longest time, Robin was my top title. And Secret Six just came in and crushed it. But I get more stories like this. I get more energy like this. It's going there.
It's a great book. I think what I loved you talked about the how Tim's back. What I loved about how this title has crafted that is Tim got back on his own. In his own journey. I'm not saying he didn't have help along the way or people that he connected with. Great examples were his dealings with Superboy throughout this journey, not just in this title, but outside of it as well. It's one of the things that I've really loved, though. It wasn't just, bam, Tim's back. He went through this very dark journey, losing Bruce, just went to this place that we saw him climb back from on his own. And to me, it makes him a stronger partner for Bruce now. And these poignant moments as it goes towards the end of the issue, where the two of them do connect together, have all the more meaning because we saw Tim get back on his own, if that makes sense. And that's what I really liked about the journey.
It was thing because as we're talking about Tim going through this journey of his. One, it wasn't just a dark place from he was separating from his friends. We're losing that whole support cast. Ives, Zoe, just these cool characters who are around him. Well, now they're coming back. Now they're slowly coming. First, it was Tam Fox. She kind of gets introduced into this whole craziness as he starts coming back. Then you got Ives is now making appearances. He's mentioning Zoe, talking also about Tam, so she's not out of the picture yet. Plus, we get his version of Catwoman. which I thought was just a nice way to kind of bring her into this whole mix, with is she a cop, isn't she a cop, what's going on here kind of deal. It's that same kind of skating the line of the law-abiding or not.
Different Bruce in the sense that Bruce didn't chastise him in those moments. Bruce understood those moments. And it's funny, you mentioned that Howard Chaykin Batman Catwoman one-shot.
Yeah.
Which I thought was such a great example of wherever, you want to say that story takes place. Great example of what their relationship's like. And when we get to see, him and have those interactions with Catwoman back in the one-shot that we saw with the Bruce Wayne Road Home, we get to see those same moments. All the more interesting now to see these two connect together over the Catwoman, his version of Catwoman on this, and Bruce saying, hey, let me tell you some stories about this. It was two old buds.
Yeah.
Because Bruce, I love that Bruce is a father figure to Tim, but he's also a partner to Tim. And there's that role relationship with him that I don't always look at him as, because Tim had a dad, and he had a very rich relationship with his dad. So does Bruce necessarily need to be the father there? I don't know. I think that foster father, big brother kind of relationship that he has with Bruce, being a partner, a true partner that he looks up to. Mm-hmm. I've always liked the fact that Tim wound up being in this place because of his love for Batman and Robin. I loved his story from A Lonely Place of Dying, how he came in and, discovered the whole identity. So when you say you were surprised about that, my relationship with Tim Drake has been since day one. Since he came in, I've always loved the character. I thought he was the perfect Robin because they didn't try to make him Dick Grayson. And I've always loved that about him. And this journey was another great example. Dick Grayson going through this journey wouldn't have played out the same way. And that's not to say that Dick Grayson wouldn't have come out of it, too. He would have, but it would have been different. I don't know that Dick would have gone as far, maybe. Well, he has. We've seen Dick in some dark places. But he would have come out in a different way, in a very different way that fits Dick Grayson. I want to talk about, before we go back to Bruce and Tim, Cassandra Cain.
Yes.
Was I so glad to see her in those moments. And
she was, and it's funny, at New York, she was a name who kept coming up constantly. Mm-hmm. And they kept just saying, hey, Red Robin, there's some stuff coming down, they got plans for her, she's gonna be, making appearances, and it was good to know that this character, one, that we have writers who probably have some stories for her. This isn't going to be her only appearance. We're going to see her again in this title, maybe some of the other Bat titles as well. So it's good to see them acknowledging she's out there. Here's why she's not in the Bat titles, because right now the Bat titles are placed in Gotham. She's overseas.
Right.
But she's still continuing the mission. She's doing it a little differently. She's not under the name of Bat or anything like that, but she's still continuing what they started all that time ago. And I was just like, I loved seeing just, a great, way to, I don't want to say finalize the story, but kind of bring you up to speed. Why we haven't seen her. Here's what she's doing. Here's the future that's going to come out from her.
Yeah, it's not a finalization. No. It's more of a
up to speed.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like a prelude to where we're going to go from here. And I hope this is not an isolated appearance, because that would be a real waste of what he's done here. Because I really liked seeing her with the Batarangs. It's clear that she's still a part of the program. She's doing this her way, but she hasn't lost sight of being a part of the Bat family. And I'm glad that and I like the costume. I really dig the look for her. I think it works.
Oh, definitely. And it's it's a functional outfit. It's
got the utility belt.
Yeah.
And it really is. It shows a nice nod to it. I don't know. It's kind of funny. I don't know that I necessarily need her to have a Bat symbol on. I wouldn't be against it either. I think the reason why is because we've got a lot of people running around with Bat symbols on, and I like everybody who is, but I'm like, there comes a point where it's like, okay, where do we? At what point do we stop and kind of go a different route? I don't care what outfit she's wearing as long as we see her, and I think this is a great example of. And I love the interaction with them. We get to see that Tim has evolved in his own training, his own ability to act as a fighter. This is somebody who previously he couldn't go toe-to-toe with and sneak up on. Yeah. The fight between Tim and Cassandra now would be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't want to... Part of me would still kind of put money on her.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be such a destruction that it would have been earlier. Tim learned, some tricks. He's learned, he's gained more confidence in his fighting ability. He's gained more just presence with who he is, what he has to do to get the job done. And that was part of this dark journey he went through, where he kind of pushed the envelope for himself. Where, without Bruce around, without any support or structure, family kind of deal, he had to, knuckle it up. So a fight between those two would be a great fight. I still kind of would edge her, but you know what? I wouldn't be shocked if he beat her.
Do you think she's found home, or was she implying that she's looking for that?
I think she's always looking. I think there's a journey that she's like that wandering spirit that, she doesn't have that set place, where she belongs. And that's what she's going through. It's it's not just a physical... The upbringing
with her dad, too.
Yeah, it's not just a physical home. She's looking for that center inside her. And I'm wondering if we're going to see some of her in Batman Inc. If this is going global, maybe she'll be involved in that kind of stuff, which I'd kind of like to see.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Actually, that would be a great role for her. And actually kind of expanding, so there would be some opportunities to see her. I like her in this title, though. And
definitely, yeah.
Tim's choice to head back to Gotham City and use Crime Alley as his base of the theater, as his base of operations. Wow.
I love that. That was just another one of those, oh, that is cool. Why, and when he said it, I'm like, yeah, why haven't any of them done anything with it? Why haven't any of them tried to turn that, place that was just the scene of this horrific crime, into something positive? Turn that neighborhood around. Turn Crime Alley around. Turn that, make the effort to do something there. And I like seeing Tim do that.
Bruce, prior to this, might not have been able to handle this. I'm serious.
True. Yeah, could be.
I think we've got a Bruce now who, the Bruce that he embraces at the end of this issue is a Bruce that I think would get what Tim's doing. And I'm assuming Bruce knows what he's doing right now, because he's been obviously following him around and checking out what's going on. So,
and I tell you, just speaking of Bruce, the costume tweaks, I really dig those.
Oh, you mean Bruce's outfit?
Yeah, Bruce's outfit, the costume tweaks to it. I'm thinking that's going to be the costume that's in Batman Inc., correct?
Oh yeah, this is it. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think
it was Finch, and I don't know if I'm wrong on this. I apologize. I believe it was a David Finch redesign.
Cool.
Of the suit, and I really liked the slight tweaks to Dick Grayson's costume when Dick Grayson took over as Batman, and I love this just as much because this is very much a Bruce design, while at the same time. I actually was worried how I was going to feel about the yellow being back on the back of the Bat Shield.
Yeah.
Just because I always been like, well, it's blatantly a target being painted there. But they've actually played up to that in the story
with armor plating and
where he knew that would be a target. So I'm okay with that. It looks great.
The thing I really like about this is just thinking, with this whole Batman Inc. thing, with this multiple Batmans, it's a definite way to show that this is, not the same Batman as Dick Grayson is. And in a way, I would think people will look at this and think this guy is a new Batman, and the one running around Gotham is the long-term Batman. I don't think people are going to be initially thinking that this is the original Batman returning. They're going to think this is the new guy. And for me, I thought that is a cool way to play it out, because, one, if you're dealing with Batman and you think you're going up against the new guy, not the experienced guy, you're going to maybe think, oh, he can mess up, this is a rookie, and you may have some of your harder core villains take him lighter than what they really should. If you're thinking the quote-unquote real Batman is running around in Gotham, and this is the new guy, or some people are even thinking both of these guys are new guys, and they're not, neither one is the real Batman, you're going to definitely get an initial advantage in some of the initial fighting and, some of the dealings and stuff like that. I think that is, for me, one of the cool things about this kind of costume change.
Also speaking about the costume change, when you see the two of them together, I really, once again, want to say how much I really enjoyed the tweaks to the Red Robin costume.
Yeah.
Because the two of them, honestly, the whole moment that was the payoff for me, and I don't want to take anything away from the rest of the issue, that last page, and honestly, that's a great example of, when does a last page like this matter as much? When the build to getting to that last page adds something. And that last line, figure out who to do it with. Did you think it was going to be Bruce? When that list originally came out, I didn't. I thought that was going to be a way to separate him somewhat.
part of me would have, when I first saw the list, I was like, okay, yeah, that'd be kind of neat. But I was thinking I have to do this, with somebody else, not with Bruce. I was thinking maybe he was thinking he would have a partner or sidekick kind of deal.
That's what I was thinking.
And that's what I was thinking he was going. I wasn't really. I guess probably in the back of my head there was a little bit of thought that it could be Bruce, but I was thinking someone other than Bruce.
I'm not saying it was totally out of the realm of what I was thinking, but I was like 90% leaning towards it was going to be somebody else. Going more your route, that it was going to be somebody who is his, his Oracle, his Alfred, his, or being this girl perhaps even, that he was going to start building that type of thing. So much better that it was Bruce.
Yeah. And I loved that final swinging scene, but I tell you, just that whole segment leading up to the hug was just a wonderful thing.
Yes.
It wasn't just even the coolness of, a full page spread, beautiful, beautiful artwork. It was the moments before that, because they get there, they fire off an impulse, to fry any rooftop cameras, so they're not going to be seen. Then they drop the hoods down. Then they drop, they both drop their masks, and they both go clear. And I love that, the fact that it's, step up, you're thinking, multiple steps. You tell us in the story that they're doing it. And we always say how when Bruce is talking to Alfred, we're seeing the real Bruce Wayne.
Oh, this is totally the real Bruce Wayne, yes.
100%. And I think that's going to be going forward.
Why was this my favorite issue?
Yeah.
So far that I've seen of it, because I'm like, I so wanted to see these great moments with his people, especially Tim. Yeah. Look at what Tim went through trying to prove that this man was still alive. And to come back to this point and to show up, but this film with Bruce, I realized with everything that's going on, we forgot one thing. What? I did not expect to turn the page and see this.
See a big hug, yeah.
So glad to see it, because it was such a fitting moment. It does show us that Bruce is in a different place, yet he hasn't lost the edge. And that's a key to me. It's a pivotal key that when you see these two swinging off, I'm like, oh my gosh, does that look... It looks even cooler because of this. And you're right about the costume. I really love it. I wasn't sure how I'd feel when I've seen it the first couple times, and I think it's just a period of adjustment. Actually seeing it in practice and in motion, it goes like... I say the same thing with film costumes. Yeah. It looks great. Yeah. I know it's not the artist who originally created it, but Marcus 2 did a great job on it. I think this costume's going to look fantastic in a variety of different titles.
I'm very excited. Very excited.
Yeah. So I honestly, the story I think has sold me on it. Why don't we, it's just in general, talk about the concept of Batman Inc. real quick. We saw at the end of The Return of Bruce Wayne, which I did not see coming in a million years, Bruce Wayne reveals that he's been financing Batman all along, and that it's a global initiative now, Batman Incorporated.
I so love that, because it was something that, when... the movie came out, and when the second movie came out, and that one accountant, figured out who Bruce Wayne, figured out who Batman was, and all that stuff. That was the first thought that popped in my head. Come on, dudes! All you got to say is he's financing him, and not that he is Batman. And when they, the way they played it out in the movie was still kind of cool. I like that. I'm not gonna knock how that went out, but I thought that'd be a cool way to handle that scene. And then I see it in comics, I'm like, yes, cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting risk to take.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've got to really come up with storytelling to continue to disprove now that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Because that's going to be on the table.
Well, the other thing...
I don't dislike it, though, because I think it's okay. Are we going to take things in a new direction? Yes, and this has done that now.
Here's the other thing that I was thinking about. Mm-hmm. If I'm a supervillain and I want to hurt Batman, what am I going to do? I'm going to go after the money.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go after Bruce Wayne. I'm going to go after the friends of Bruce Wayne. I'm going to go after the
sons of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. So we have the potential for villains going after Dick, Tim, Bruce, Alfred, figuring, I'm going to get Batman back,
but he just went through that with Dr. Hurt on a huge level in R.I.P. right before Final Crisis. So you're seeing a Bruce now is like, I've got to upgrade the operation across the board, both in and out of the costume, to make sure we're protected and safe. There's a reason now to have security in place on a level that nobody would realize.
Yeah, and now you can jack it up. And actually, even if there's a Wayne function going on and criminal element shows up and one of the Bat family is there immediately, there's now no way. Well, it'll be harder for someone to pin it onto Bruce as, they must be, Bruce Wayne must be Batman. No. We know that Bruce Wayne is funding the Batman and funding all of the Bat family, so it would make sense that he would have people on hand just in case. So it's going to make it easier for Batman, Robin, Red Robin, any of the Gotham heroes to show up at a moment's notice at a Wayne function. I thought, I'm just thinking, down the road, different stories we can have. This was just a really cool thing. I was digging it big time.
Now, Dr. Hurt, a.k.a. Thomas Wayne from the past, not Bruce's dad.
Right.
This is the Thomas Wayne that we saw in the past that is come to present day. Is still alive, right? The Joker buried him.
Well, he buried him alive. So
but
depending on the black magic that he had, the voodoo magic, how well did he survive? Now, Joker also hit him with the Joker gas because he was getting the grin going when they buried him. So who knows how powerful that magic is? Because it seemed to me like it wasn't a one-time, bam, you're immortal. It was something he had to keep reoccurring.
Well, except remember, though, when they tried to sacrifice Bruce, everybody else wasn't a part of that Like, they wouldn't have gotten that black magic, but he didn't go through that, and yet he was still around.
Yeah.
Young, but in present day.
I took it that he probably did more sacrificing off camera. I don't think it was a one-time immortality thing. I think he had to recharge the batteries.
Did we see him do any more sacrificing, though?
No, but there was a line, and I can't think exactly what it was, where it implied that he's done multiple things over time. I think it was Alfred even said it to him, or it may have been Dick who said it, but somebody said something to him about, you've stayed alive because of your sacrifices, and it was a plural thing, not a single.
I guess my speculating at this point is he dead or not? And I don't know that that's...
God!
I don't know that's been... I think he's back. I think he's going to be back.
I think he's tough enough to survive that.
I do too.
I think it's
that's what I was throwing out there. I guess so. That when you got to speculate, how would he survive this? Is I guess what I'm trying to do right now.
He's got stored up magic. He's got the stored up energy, and I think he's got a deadline where he has to get out soon. And not soon. Eventually, he has to get out and maybe do a recharge. For him to stick around, kind of deal.
What did you think of the whole Return of Bruce Wayne event? And I'm talking about, I guess, specifically how it played out in Return of Bruce Wayne and Batman and Robin. My only gripe, and I'll throw mine out there first, but I enjoyed the whole thing. I've been digging it. You've been hearing me gushing on the show about the whole thing. My only minor gripe on the whole thing, and it's really a wish of how I wish it would have been released, is that we'd known how Bruce returned before we saw him in Batman and Robin. That would have been my only thing I would have wished had been released differently, that this issue 6 had been released then. I get why it wasn't done with how issue 6 ended, with having the whole family there and revealing Batman Incorporated. If you had done that before what happened in Batman and Robin, I think it would have made the ending in Batman and Robin, there wasn't as big of a surprise to it.
Yeah, I agree. When I was initially reading it, I was like, when that came out, I was like, what? Why are they in the Elms? And it did throw me for like a second, but I don't know. To be honest, I enjoyed it, immensely. This was a great read, and looking forward to rereads and just going back from the beginning, rereading everything, and just looking for more, kind of like the hidden story underneath the story kind of deals.
What I did was, and what actually ended up happening for me, and what made it better for me, I liked it all along. So I'm not saying you've heard me on the show.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been talking nonstop about how much I'm digging what's going on with Batman, and my Bruce is back. I went back through and I reread the last arc-ish of the Batman and Robin storyline where we got Bruce back. I reread all of the Return of Bruce Wayne. And actually, I read the Return of Bruce Wayne first, 1 through 6, and then read those last few issues of. It read so much better for me, but when I got to the end of Return of Bruce Wayne, I'm like, this is why. This ending you couldn't have done, because it really would have ruined the ending of Batman and Robin. So I totally get it. I don't have a problem with it. I do recommend for people, though, if you've read all those issues together, I mean, if you read them as they were released chronologically, go back through and read the miniseries together, then read those last issues, and they read differently.
Yeah, it's a cool thing.
It's a very cool ending, and I really enjoyed it. So it's like a small little thing into something that I thoroughly enjoyed. I am bat happy.
Yeah, I want to know how his super costume that he had in those the one-shot series,
right?
And when he was the Insider, I want to see the development and creation of that costume.
I don't think we're going to see that.
Yeah, I know. I don't think we will either. But
because I don't think that's going to be a part of Morrison's. Because the Return, I think that one, because we got one more Batman: The Return issue coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that hasn't been released yet, so we've got that, and I'm feeling
and
it's
maybe that's where we'll see it. Who knows? I don't know.
I don't know, because I think that the one shots weren't linked to what Morrison's doing.
I can hope, can I?
Well, no. I'm honestly just saying, though, if I'm going off of what happened, like with things like Battle for the Cowl,
Yeah.
where they were kind of in between pieces. I'm guessing that's going to be the case there. I'd love to be wrong, because actually everything you said, I'm like, ditto. I'd like to see the development of that as well. So maybe we will. Maybe I'm wrong. But a very cool return of Bruce so far.
Yeah, this was a great way to handle this. It's an event that got us somewhere, but along the journey, it told a fun story. I was really digging what I was getting with the different eras, with the Tim, and with, just everything that was going on in the Bat titles themselves. Plus, you have this on top of it, and we're also getting a new Bruce. We're getting a different Bruce, and that is something that, in the end, I didn't want it just to drop in and be the same old Bruce, everything back to normal. No, they have to grow from this. They have to change from this. The universe has to feel different, and the universe feels different. The Bat family feels different, and I love seeing that growth and that development in this series. This was one of those things, again, wonderfully told way to handle it. Same kind of praise I was giving towards the Green Lantern Corps in Sinestro Corps War, in Blackest Night, where it's it's a changing of the universe, it's a changing of the family. Same deal with Superman, with everything he went through, changing of who they are, but it's not getting rid of what I love about the character. This was just a hoorah stuff.
Before we go further, speaking of Superman, seeing as you went there, I know you don't read the blogs and stuff a lot. Do you know what's going on with Superman and Wonder Woman right now? JMS is not going to be the writer anymore?
No, I did not know that.
I don't know what the reasoning, I know he's going to be doing the sequel to Earth 1.
Okay.
Obviously, because of the success of that, their same creative team, they're red lighting the sequel, so that's for sure he's focusing on that. It's in a couple of months. He is going to be dropping off both titles, and the writer of iZombie's taking over one of the books. And I apologize right now, I forget who's taking over the other, because we're doing this just casually at the moment. But they're going to be taking over and using his story notes to complete the stories that were in those books. And then I don't know if they're going to take over after those stories are done, or what's going to happen afterwards. What are your feelings on that? And
wow, I'm shocked and surprised, because here's the thing: one Superman, I was loving that. I was loving everything he was doing with it. Too. And with Wonder Woman, when we talked about it before, I was like, I didn't know where it was going. I was reading it like it was an Elseworld, but I had confidence in him as a writer, because I've read some of his stuff that I absolutely loved. I was like, this is a guy who, I trust in his skills. And now I'm hearing somebody else is going to be finishing it. I'm going to give him a shot, and I'm going to see what's going on. But this is kind of, this is really throwing me a little knuckleball, a little curveball, and I'm like, wow.
You love iZombie.
Yes.
And I'm looking right now to see who the writer is again. But so that was right away for me. Both writers in both cases, I like both writers.
Yeah.
It was.
I'm enjoying iZombie. So it's a talented writer taking over, but it was the thing that the writer, JMS was like, I was like, okay, I want to see where this is going. I'm looking forward to this, and it was something I was like holding on to. So I'm definitely going to be curious to see where this goes, how this goes, and I don't know. Wow.
Phil Hester, from things like El Diablo, Green Arrow, Nightwing. So you'll remember Phil Hester from Nightwing. Not from Nightwing. I'm sorry, Green Arrow.
Yeah.
Because you got the complete Green Arrow run right after Kevin Smith on, right?
Yes.
So you've read Phil Hester's work on there, and I'm assuming you liked that at the time.
Yeah. So
the writers on paper who are taking over, iZombie I love.
Yeah.
I like them. The big problem I always have with something like this is they're finishing off of somebody else's notes. So is there going to be enough opportunity for them to complete this in a way where they can be successful and be able to finish the story where it makes a mark? I'll give an example where it worked. The Authority Year 1. Did you read all 12 issues of that?
Yeah.
That was finished by Keith Giffen. Great job finishing what Grant Morrison and the team started in a book that I thought ended very well, the 12 issues. That worked. It doesn't always work that way, but I'm hoping we get an Authority Year 1 here out of this. So that's kind of where I'm hoping it goes.
Oh, it definitely can. And these are, people that, as you're throwing out the names, I'm like, okay, I've read their stuff. I like their stuff. So it's, definitely going to, see what happens, give it a shot. Now, the thing I always wonder and worry about when somebody else is taking over off of somebody else's notes, how much of the person taking over is it going to be their personality? Is it going to be their writing style? Is it going to be who they are put into it? And that's a delicate balance, because if you're going to finish up that story, you're going to follow those guidelines, and how maybe in their head, like, man, if I was writing this, I'd want to go this way. And will they be how much liberty will they have with it? Can they change things up? Or are they kind of said, hey, this has to happen, and then you're in charge of it? Or
I think it's got to be a little bit of A and a little bit of B. You got to play up to your own strengths, because if you for them to try to be JMS would be a huge mistake.
Yeah, big time.
Because I think right there what you're going to have is then a watered down version of JMS. On the other hand, to try and follow, because I don't think I never got the impression when I was reading The Authority Year 1 that Keith Giffen was trying to be Grant Morrison. I believe he was trying to follow a story outline of Grant Morrison's to conclusion, and did a great job of it being Keith Giffen.
Yeah, but it's still his story, though. Yeah.
Right, and I think that was there was a nice balance in what Keith Giffen did there. So I guess what I would say is the template for me would be how The Authority Year 1 played out, would be how I would play this out. Mm-hmm. In that type of thing. And I think they'll have a chance to be successful there and actually to wrap up these arcs. Straczynski, moving on. Now let's actually talk on something that I would think we're both thinking is an extreme positive, more Superman Earth 1.
Yes. I am very excited, and that's very happy news to hear that, because I loved that hardcover, and I was like, okay, we got to get more. Come on, give me more, please.
Yeah, so that's a for sure for me. I'm giddy over that. I'm with you. I'm tentative on the Superman and Wonder Woman news. It's hard without actually seeing their product in our hands.
We need the finished product to actually say yes, and even then, I think we need a couple issues and just see how the story arc plays out before we can say yes, this is good, or I wish they did stayed around, or whatever. You can't make any judgment calls, but it's not like they're saying, and Sean Whalen's taking over the writing for it. Like, what?
No, God, yeah. What a way to kill a book,
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
They're putting these aren't
unknowns.
Right. Yeah,
and actually, Chris Robertson, who's doing iZombie, I actually should note that he did the Cinderella miniseries from Fabletown with Love, which I really liked. So it's a writer who I enjoy. So I mean, the writers on paper are both writers that I like. So that's got me a lot more interested than if it was two people where I'm like, ooh, I really don't care. That would be kind of hard. No, I mean, and your example using me actually fits that. I would be, if I didn't know who the person was, I would be in a very different place right now. Still tentative though, because that's a hard thing to do, to take over for somebody else.
And it's funny, and the fanboy in me, when you're saying they're new writers taking over, I'm just thinking, I'm just like, oh, please say, Jeff Johns on Superman and Gail Simone on Wonder Woman, please.
Yeah, would that be nice? I don't know. It's funny though. These could turn out to be good moves.
Oh yeah,
we'll see.
It definitely has potential for some cool stuff, because these are, as we've said, these are people who have skills. These are talented writers, so it's going to see where it goes.
I'm sure in the meeting they weren't sitting there saying, "Hey, let's really try to screw up Superman."
Yeah, I know.
Let's really screw up Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
let's put these two on here. So I mean, I'm sure that wasn't the conversation that was held. It honestly, probably editorial wise, they had to take a look at who are some writers who we can talk to who have some ideas on how to complete they probably had a lot of deep conversations on who are writers that we can talk to that can complete these storylines, that have ideas on how to get from A to B and not lose themselves while keeping Straczynski's arc. So probably a lot of the things you were saying before had to have been key points, I would imagine, key focal points of that discussion, because you got to pick people who can have. Well, take a look at what happened in Action. Action had a change in writers from, I think it was Guggenheim was supposed to be before, and then it went to Paul Cornell. And look how that turned out. I'm very happy with Paul Cornell on Action. So I'm hoping we get a Paul Cornell on Action moment here.
Through the magic alchemy of nature's most awesome sources of energy, Ray Palmer, atomic physicist, becomes the atom.
Jim, actually, it was funny. I was going to go into talking about DC Comics that we've been reading lately, because I know we want to talk about Thunder Agents, which we're definitely going to get to on this episode. I wanted to talk about some of these 75th anniversary books that I picked up. Well, first of all, let's talk about Superman Muhammad Ali. We both picked up these books. picked, I should have, I'm kicking myself for not doing it. You picked up the hardcover facsimile where it's the full,
it's the full size, it's the size it came out with, but it's actually remastered. It's on, nice fancy paper, looks beautiful, and I was like really, when I was looking at the two options, they had the deluxe edition, that was deluxe edition size, and then they had this size. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go with the original. I'm going old school. I want to see how it is originally presented, and I'm so glad I went with this, because this was just something I got it. I was just flipping through it before I even read it, just looking at the images, just looking at the beautiful artwork. I was just like, wow, okay, I'm happy with this one.
Yeah, I got the deluxe edition. I'm thrilled with that. I'm kicking myself for not getting that, though, because you brought it over and had a chance to see it. The deluxe version's like anybody who's gotten the deluxe hardcovers for anything else. R.I.P. was released in it, for example. Whatever Happened to the Cape Crusader was been released in that. They're a little bit bigger than your normal comic size. So the art's a little bigger, and they're on that nice glossy paper. It's beautiful. It's a great reproduction. Like you said, it's all remastered. It's, the Neil Adams artwork just looks fantastic. Story by Denny O'Neil. It takes me back to my childhood, because I did have this in my childhood. I don't know what I did with it for the life of me. But it's great to have that back again. Another couple things I want to talk about, Jim, I got from DK Books. It's the DC Comics Year by Year, a Visual Chronicle. And it's got the DC 75 logo on it. This is in a gorgeous slipcase featuring the Trinity. But it really is, anybody who's gotten any DK books before will know what to expect from these. There's these encyclopedia-like books that go through just all the years of DC Comics, going from the 30s to the 40s, straight on through. Just wonderful archives of comic covers throughout. Things like the First Crisis. I'm 1963, the First Crisis, Justice League of America 21 to 22, with a nice article about it. Running in reverse from the Flash 139 with Barry versus the Reverse Flash. I mean, it goes. Then things like Showcase featuring Dr. No, Showcase number 43. And it really just shows all of DC and just comics throughout their history. So this is a wonderful piece where I see myself just looking through this forever. And it goes all the way through. Like, we got 2008, 2009, straight on through to 2010. So it's all current, including a wonderful double page of, a David Finch Batman. It's Batman 700.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
How gorgeous is that? So, this is very, very current with a full index in the back. And this is, when you get done with the index pages and everything, this is a 352-page tome.
Nice.
Beautiful, gorgeous. The cover looks fantastic. And I'm not just talking about the slipcase, the full cover, just the wonderful cover illustrations and everything. And Jim, I'm going to let you start paging through this as I talk about some of the other books that I got. Another book that I got is the DC Comics 75th Anniversary Poster Book. It includes 100 ready-to-frame covers with commentary from Robert, and it's SCHNAKENBERG. And these feature covers all throughout DC's history, and going all the way back from the beginning to present day.
It won't fit in my bag. I was trying to fit it in there. I'm trying to be sleek.
My visual chronicle, yeah. These are books that, they're things that I figured like you might have missed, Jim, or some of our listeners did. And with the 75th anniversary of DC, these are interesting. This is an oversized book. Actually, it's bigger than the facsimile edition of...
It's like absolute size.
Yeah, it really is.
Plus,
it's bigger than absolute size. These are full posters. And the great thing about these is they're a nice hard cardstock. On the back of each cover, there's a little blurb about the cover. And, kind of going on, just showing all kinds of covers throughout
these. These are awesome, man. I got to get these. I got to find them.
This was something, I didn't know how, this was the one I was probably the most tentative on when I got it, because I'm like, a poster book, I don't know how I feel about that. The anecdotes on the back, and when there's the anecdotes, not only do they have the anecdotes, but they also have a couple other covers from the particular title and mention. You got a classic Green Lantern #1, the fall issue, 10 cents. We see, Alan Scott there fighting a guy with a, giant sword, coming at him. This is just really just fantastic. Wonder Woman and Sensation Comics. There's tons of covers in this baby.
It's funny, anytime I see like the old school Alan Scott Green Lantern issues and all that stuff, I'm always reminded a friend of ours, his mother used to, when she was a little girl, she used to collect comics, and Green Lantern was her favorite. And, the one day she and I were just talking, and she's talking about Alan Scott. I'm talking about, Hal Jordan and the current stuff going on in the Corps, telling her about, Alan, what he's doing kind of deal. And it was kind of a neat thing, just this, kind of a geek out moment. So seeing that classic cover you just mentioned just got me completely thinking back to, just that discussion.
This is over 205 pages, and each of the covers, each of these posters are perforated if you want to take them out. I'll probably never take them out myself. I'll like to keep this as a page-through book. But, it had everything from Prez to The Dark Knight Returns, the ones that you would expect to be in here. Watchmen covers, Killing Joke, V for Vendetta, Sandman covers, things from Detective Comics, Superman, the Death of Superman cover in here, Wonder Woman #0, Mike Deodato art, Preacher #1, with Garth Ennis.
That's a full page spread too.
Yeah, it's
nice.
Gorgeous. Kingdom Comes covers. So this is really, the Harley Quinn one shot, Batman Harley Quinn #1 with the Joker and Alex Ross. Gorgeous, and it goes on and on. 100 Bullets. There's just great books throughout this whole thing. Let me go ahead and page through this baby. Then there was the one where I got this insane box this week. I ordered this book, and it's Paul Levitz. It's 75 Years of DC Comics, The Art of Modern Myth-Making by Paul Levitz. If the price tag on this baby scared you off, do yourself a favor and rethink that. This thing it came in a huge box when I got it. Then when I opened the box and I picked this thing up, it's got a handle. It's a book that comes in a giant box with a handle on it. This is how big this thing's in. It's over 700 pages. The book is oversized. So talk about another oversized tome. This is way bigger. Again, this is like
anything.
Actually, this is the size of this poster book.
Yeah.
700 pages all the way through. Huge dust jacket on it. It's a page-by-page look at the complete history. 700 pages devoted to the history of DC Comics.
The box comes with its own handle.
And it needs a handle.
It needs a handle to carry this, massive tome. I'm like, that's the one I'm really jealous of.
But are you going to get it?
Yes.
Yeah. It is one of those things. But it's a special book that if you're a true comic fan and you really enjoy comics, and that price tag was the one thing cheering you. I'm going to tell you right now, this book is so massive. It's by Taschen. It's Taschen is the publishers. It's Paul Levitz. They really did it. Even the box itself has this wonderful painted, classic-looking Superman image on it. And it all looks like, a retro kind of looking Superman package. But that book also goes from the beginning of DC Comics straight on through to present day, with also commentary at the various things that DC Comics went through due to things that were happening in politics, things were happening. So it's really a true chronicle taking a look at the various changes in the comics industry as DC's been in. So for those fans of comic history, this is a book that you're definitely going to want to consider picking up.
Big time.
And it was something, I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I've had a chance to page through it, look at it. This is something where I'm going to be spending a lot of time with it. Actually, all of these books, but this one in particular was one that, I thought the DK book when I got it was impressive because that was the first one that came. When I saw this thing, I was like, oh my gosh.
And I was impressed with my Superman Muhammad Ali. I'm like, I'm having an inferiority complex here.
No, but it was something that I thought was really important to share with people, that these are books that are interesting. Honestly, easily, I would tell people if you're going to start with saving money for something, go with this 75 Years of DC Comics, The Art of Modern Myth-Making by Paul Levitz. Don't let the price tag show you, save your money up for that first, because it's something that if you are a fan of DC Comics, and especially history, it's just a huge tome. Oh, you could really hurt yourself with this book.
Yeah.
Wait, forget the Hawkman mace anymore? I'm holding this. You give me trouble on the show, I'm going to try to beat you with this. I think it'll take one whack. I might hurt myself hurting you. But very cool stuff. So, let's just start with this, because we're going to talk casually about a number of books because there's a lot of great things that have come out. And one of them that I really want to talk about, because I wasn't sure, I don't have any history with Thunder Agents. So I've heard good things from people who've been fans of Thunder Agents forever. They're like, oh, Thunder Agents coming back. I remember James Robinson said something at the panel that he's excited about the DC requiring Thunder Agents because he liked it so much. So I'm like, oh, I really don't know what to expect here, but I have I'm interested in hopefully a new concept. And I said to you, Jim, Thunder Agents. You're like, I was thinking of doing that. I didn't know you were thinking of doing that. I should have known.
When I first saw this and I first ordered it, I was joking around saying that. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, because I had no idea who these were at all. And I'm like, okay, I'll give the first issue a read through. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. And as soon as I read it, I was like, wow. This really just from issue 1. This has me in there. This is it's a solid Friday read, but could very easily be a Thursday depending on what it's up against. The concept behind this book and just the way they presented it in this first issue just was that thing that just pulled me in, hook, line, and sinker. I was like, wow. I literally did say thunder agents, ho! And I was just really gung-ho about this, and I'm like, I'm so looking forward to the second issue. I want to know more about these people are. And the thing I loved about this is I really don't know the powers or the special beings behind the superheroes. This whole thing is about what happens to them, who's running the show, the whole government agency, the intrigue kind of stuff. And I was just like, wow, I'm not excited about the heroes. I'm excited about the overall story behind the heroes. And that for me was just a huge thing, because usually with me to get a solid lock on something, I go, yeah, these are cool heroes. Well, now this is a cool concept. And that is just something that completely caught me off guard.
Well, this idea, and from what I'm reading from this, is there's been many Thunder Agents throughout the years, but only certain people are capable of being the Thunder Agents, capable of taking on the powers of the ones that came before. So obviously they're heroes that are created by the government. But this idea that they've got to be approached by like one of these traveling salesmen and really sold on the idea that they need to do this. But then the morality that brings in, because this girl who's been working with them for ages really now is, you see that she's learning about all kinds of lies and secrets throughout this whole thing. And she's having second thoughts about herself, almost like, she's questioning her own morality. She almost feels dirty about what she's been doing. So what is that going to mean for the Thunder Agents?
Well, it's like the powers burn themselves out.
Exactly.
You die when you sign up to be these Thunder Agents. Mm-hmm. It's not like, any other superhero comic we're reading where we're like, oh, well, it's Superman. He's going to survive. He'll figure out a way. No, any of these Thunder Agents can and probably will die. Within a span of, within a span of multiple issues, we could have multiple people in these roles. And I'm laughing, kind of like wondering, how long will this one last? It's like Kenny all over again,
It's like the Great 10. There's that one in
the Ghost in the Machine? No.
The one who goes in the plane.
The plane.
Yeah, right. I know exactly what you're talking about. But I mean, I really liked that concept. I'm very similar to that character as with Thunder Agents. I don't want to be a Thunder Agent.
No.
And I like that, because usually in my comics, I'm like looking at the various heroes, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to be that hero. I'd love to have those powers. I'd love to be able to do this. Even to be Batman and run around. And it's funny. I want to be Batman, who's been killed, shot back through time, come back to present day, everything he's gone through. Yeah. I want to be Batman over being these guys. But yet, I'm so intrigued by that. Yeah. And it's really a different approach to a comic in the sense that we've got, like you said, we're coming at it from the perspective of that we're watching from the outside, the creation of the new Thunder Agents. And to see, we don't even know yet who these characters are. We haven't been introduced to them.
Yeah, we barely...
First issue, we haven't been introduced to the Thunder Agents.
Yeah, we know their names, some of them names, and I'm kind of guessing the one's a speedster, the one looks like he's got, some powerhouse type of powers, and the other one has got electricity. But truth be told, I don't really
They're on the cover. That's all we really always see them in costume is them on the cover, but knowing that there's going to be some interesting... So we're on the top floor of these characters, yet the great thing is, my understanding is this is a direct connection to the previous Thunder Agents series. So I really like, and I loved how they used some classic style artwork. It's is that Darwin Cook, I think? I might be wrong, and I apologize. There's some great artwork when they show the classic Thunder Agents, like kind of through the back there. I'm just curious to see how this is all going to turn out. It was an interesting book right off of the start with something where, you're right, we do see them at the end for that quick shot, but I don't know anything about them. We sent them in to rescue Raven and destroy Spider, and then we killed them, all of them. So what does that mean? How did they get killed? Well, I'm taking it that they're not dead. I'm taking it that she thinks they're dead.
I don't know.
Or did killing them mean that we killed them by giving them the powers?
See that? Yeah, it could be multiple things. And it could be a metaphoric killing. It could be a literal killing. I liked how this story was doing a lot of time jumping. And it was like, 12 months ago, 11 months ago, and it was doing some
You don't normally
jumping.
like that, so here you say, I like the time jumping.
Well, and that was the thing. It was one of those things, when they started it, I had to reread stuff, but then when I was rereading it, I was like, yeah, okay. Once I got the groove going, and once I understood it, I was like, yeah, this is neat, okay. And exactly what you said. Normally that throws me off. Normally that gets me frustrated. Mm-hmm. With this one, it was part of the story. It was part of the intrigue. It was part of that great mystery as to who are the Thunder Agents. It had me in there, had me wanting more. This is I was like I'm excited to read issue 2. I've already had my pre-order of issue 3. I'm in deep with Thunder Agents right now. Definitely looking forward to it. Want to, start doing some research, maybe see some of the previous stuff, find out what else is out there on them, and get some background on these guys. And yeah, it's wow. Fun, energetic reading.
I'm guessing Raven's going to survive.
Yeah, probably.
The only one from the old team that'll survive, and I think Raven, having gone through what Raven has, I'm wondering is going to be the one that's going to maybe lead to some of the questions that the team's going to start having about what they're actually doing and and who's running the show. I don't know. I'm intrigued by this series a great deal.
And it's funny, I'm saying, yeah, probably, but to be honest, he may not.
Exactly.
And I think that adds an element of realism to the whole story, that when you have your main heroes, your main characters, who could die off at any given time, that adds to the element, that adds to the adventure, and it adds to the drama. Who knows, this may be a regular reoccurring theme in the book, where every couple issues, every couple story arcs, we're cleaning house, or we're getting rid of one, or we're adding a new person in there. I don't know the back history, I don't know the style of the story of Thunder Agents. That's why I'm really excited about seeing this, because this is something different for me.
Uncle Sam is dead in issue 3 of Freedom Fighters. It's one of the funny things, and I honestly think, I don't remember for sure, and I apologize. I think this is the first issue that said Freedom Fighters featuring Uncle Sam.
Yeah, I think so.
I liked that little change. I wanted to shout out this book. It's Paul Miotti and Gray doing the writing, and the art team's really fantastic on this book. Colorist Rob Schwager is on this book as well, which I just want to note because I've really liked his work on, I've mentioned previously, on Jonah Hex with them. It's just a great, and it's Travis Moore penciler, Trevor Scott inker, Travis Lanham on letters, Dave Johnson on covers, and Rachel Gluckstern's the editor on this one. I am a big fan of this series. I love the team. The more we see about these characters, Black Condor in particular, the fact that he is in love with Phantom Lady.
Yeah.
And, whether or not that love would be even returned. But I love the concept that these team members are realizing that there are ways they can handle this dire situation that seemingly has killed. Is Uncle Sam really dead? Well, no, considering his connection with the Earth. But it was interesting to see that happen so early in the series. And just what this team brings to the table. And that we're going to be seeing more of these unique villains that go along with it. And them questioning their own government as well. Because Uncle Sam just because Uncle Sam is all about America doesn't mean that he goes along with everything that the government's all about. We're going to see conspiracies explored. And I love the idea that these are these ancient elements that were locked away years ago. And they're playing this game to save the vice president.
Yeah, and it's... for me, it's like Uncle Sam isn't the United States government. He's the spirit of America. He's the spirit of the people. And that's why Uncle Sam really isn't dead. It's, the spirit and that fire that is the American way isn't dead yet. It's still out there, and Sam will recharge. Like we saw him recharge before out of the waters of the mighty Mississippi. We're going to see him come back, and that's something I'm looking forward to seeing where and when he comes back, and will there be any changes? Because as time goes on, there's always questions about, what is the spirit of America? Is it still that same wholesome, energy that, that made this country so great, or has, the way of thought, the way of life changed and been polluted by, just outside corruption and or greed, all these other nasty elements that, a lot of people recognize as being an American way of life. Will that change, Sam? Will that change this team? Because this is one of the things I love about the Freedom Fighters is that, we saw this in that very first issue where they did, mid-fight, they swapped places because the one, Phantom Girl could deal with the other one, and,
that was issue 1.
Yeah, and it, the bomb dude could take human bomb. I'm like explosive man. I'm going through all these names in my head, and I couldn't think of human bomb. Thank you, but they improvise, adapt, and overcome. And even right here in this issue, they're like, Sam's dead. No, he's not. We have to fight on. This is what we do. We are the freedom fighters. And I thought that was just some really cool moments of, this team gelling together, this team saying, okay, we got to knuckle up. We're what's left. We got to take care of the business. And I love seeing that whole hero element. Heroes just don't lay down and say, oh, well, we can't do it now. No, we find a way to get it done. And that's, for me, is one of the founding principles of the freedom fighters. It's that whole feeling that we find a way to get it done. And if you think about, your classic Americana, that was the spirit of the old school America was, necessity is the mother of invention. We always find a way to make it work, to get it done. And that's kind of you see that elements in the freedom fighters.
And with these overwhelming villains that we've never seen before, coming in and being into play on this type of thing, it's great because you know that these are just incredibly powerful entities, and we know that this isn't Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. I like that. I like that they're characters that we don't know as much about. When you were saying Bomb Dude, I'm like, well, that's part of the charm of this book for me. No, it really is. It's the fact that we don't know them as well. I'm liking getting to know them. They're interesting. They're unique. Knowing their different power sets and the fact that they know each other's different power sets, we get to see some interesting interactions that we wouldn't see with other characters with the archetypes that we're normally used to in comics. This bit, one of my favorite sequences involved a semi-truck. Yeah. Very rare that I'm going to say that in a comic book. This is what happens when you mess with Uncle Sam. This semi-truck barreling into these entities.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a great moment.
And it gives the team a chance to recover, gives the team a chance to, regroup. It's, once
was a trucker who did that. It wasn't a team member. That was a trucker who just got to know them on the whole thing. But then, hey, I'm all about the country and all. And I loved that. I loved seeing that moment. It's a piece of Americana jumping in right there. And it was kind of a cool piece.
It's like that scene from Spider-Man, the movie, when he's holding up the trolley cart and goblins, and the people on the bridge just start throwing stuff at goblins. And hey, you're gonna mess with Spider-Man, you mess with all of us. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. And I thought that was it was that same kind of that cool moment where I'd like to put myself in that position where if I was driving that truck, I would do that. Now, would I? I don't know, but you want to think that I would.
I'm more inclined to drive the semi-trucks into elemental entities than I am to become a Thunder Agent. And I love the Thunder Agents.
Agreed.
It's funny, though. The Freedom Fighters are a team that, I'm like, oh, I'd like to be a part of this team. There's something about them that I think is cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think I could, though the Freedom Fighters do have, an issue. They have died. Yeah, yes. There's a definite mortality with the team.
But some of them have lived. Yeah. So we can kind of count on that. Like the Ray is still with us.
Yeah, he's still around. And
one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's two, remember?
Well, isn't this... Well, this is the original Ray came back.
The original Ray's back.
It was the other Ray that was killed off.
So just be the original of whatever character you're going to be, and that's the key to surviving.
Well, not the original Human Bomb, though. The original Human Bomb...
Well, that's a good point, too.
He met...
So there's no rhyme or reason to surviving and being a freedom fighter.
Yeah.
I'm trying to build my own freedom fighter survival guide here, and I'm failing miserably because there really is no way to survive. Because even if you're Uncle Sam, you're going to be worm food for at least a little bit.
You know what? Be the original Condor and you're okay.
The Black Condor?
Yeah. Because he's just a really badass.
Yeah, I think so. Well, yeah, he's cool. He'd be cool to
tough.
be. Yeah, I got to agree with him. But I love this idea that there's secret artifacts and secret weapons that were around, and there's also these conspiracies that are coming up. They're actually pulling from the Arcadian thing. I love that they're pulling from things that are. It felt very Da Vinci Code-ish to me in its presentation, and I like that. This idea that there's all kinds of secrets that we don't know about our government throughout its history, and I love playing on those type of things because conspiracy shows and all those types of things are really popular on television right now. It's playing off of pop culture, things that people are interested in checking out. Jesse Ventura hosts a conspiracy show and all that. Well, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not really into the whole conspiracy thing. Casually, though, in this format, I dig because it feels very contemporary and very today. Go ahead.
I love conspiracy stories.
Do you?
I love those conspiracy shows. I don't, believe them, but I absolutely love it, and I love the way people go into it and just the length they go. And it's just there's so many cool conspiracies out there, and there's a lot that don't have even a strong, a popular view. That there's these I don't want to say insignificant conspiracies, but they're not mainstream conspiracy theories out there. And I always love when I read, or see or find this, website that's, and these people are so passionate about it. I'm like, at first, whenever I see them, I'm like, okay, is this person just trying to pull a big prank on everybody, or do they actually believe it? Because there's some out there where just people pulling a prank and people just trying to, hey, let's see if we can make people believe this.
But then there's people who have actual evidence that backs up what their belief is, whether or not you still believe them at that point.
Right.
They actually have researched it and they've got actual evidence backing it up. When I say I'm a casual conspiracy fan, I'm with you in the sense that when I hear people talking about conspiracy, I get into it. I don't like watch and tape the conspiracy shows though, which I would think then I'm more of a conspiracy nut because I tend to watch the programs, every one of them. But I do, like if you were sitting here saying, hey dude, this great program's on tonight with conspiracies, and we were sitting here I would get into it and I'd watch it and enjoy it. So I'm not poo-pooing it like that.
Yeah.
But I guess my point is this feels very contemporary to today, that there's a lot of those theories being thrown around. And one of the things I love about my favorite conspiracy programs when I see them, or things like Da Vinci Code, is even though there's the overarching of a fantasy to certain elements of it, there's also that part where it skirts a hint of truth underhand, where you're like, there's just enough of it where you're like,
there's enough.
Could there be? Yeah. Or even if that person's totally off, is there some element of truth in what they're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say they're throwing out 100% of stuff where you're like, or 90% of stuff where you're like, whoa, they're crazy. What if there's 10% where they're not?
One of my favorite conspiracies, and there's so many variations off of this, is of course this whole Illuminati thing where it's a secret agents, this secret society that really runs the world. But one of the offshoots of it is whenever a new president's elected, after they've been in office for a couple days, the Illuminati comes in, takes them down to the secret room in the White House that they didn't know existed, and lets them know the whole secret, saying, you got elected because we allowed it. You hear, and they start showing the evidence, saying, oh yeah, Kennedy, we were behind this. World Trade Center, we were behind it. And they start listing all these and just showing and proving to the president that, guess what? You're not in charge, we are. Because a lot of people will say, you take a look at a brand new president, a couple days after they've been sworn in, they'll look like they've aged a little bit. And it's like they say that's right after they've just been told the truth. It just, the sudden trauma and the drama of what they just learned ages them. And it's hysterical because you say, yeah, that sounds like, no, literally find like pictures of like Clinton, Obama, Bush, right after, like a week or so after the whole campaign's over, after, they've been, sitting behind the chair for like, a week or so, and you'll see it'll look like they actually did age. And I always laugh when I see this because like, see, here's Obama, he just found out. And I'm like, oh my God, guys, and I don't believe any of it. So if there's, people are thinking, Jim, like, no, but there are people who truly and 100% solid believe this. And if you're one of those people who believe it, hey, good for you. I'm not criticizing anybody's belief. I personally don't, but I love seeing stuff like that. And I really always get behind them. Like, man, this is, okay, seeing the energy and the length they go to prove their point.
And that's what I love about this book. Yeah. I think it's so grabs on that sense of this is a part of our society right now. It's very contemporary in its feel. And like Firebrand and his whole commentary and all this so totally fits what you're saying. And this idea, I love this concept of this overarching artifacts, because we're kind of glossing over that. They have to gather these artifacts together in this quest to bring them all to this person who's holding the vice president captive to get the vice president back. Mm-hmm. To the point where wasn't the vice president's finger sent actually in one of the sequences as well,
just to let them know, hey, you're running out of time. Here's a finger. It's funny. When I was seeing that, my first reaction was, of course, we don't negotiate with terrorists. So long, Mr. Vice President. It was nice knowing you. But I like the fact that the heroes aren't saying that.
Right.
Somewhere in the political structure, there's someone saying, why are we going through this effort? Let's just, policy is, we don't negotiate with terrorists. We don't deal with, we don't deal in ransom. We don't do any of that as the standard policy for United States.
From a political standpoint, though, you got a question too. As a politician, what is the best route to go? If it gets out to people that you didn't negotiate with terrorists for the vice president, is everybody going to be behind you for not negotiating?
Yeah.
So anytime you're dealing with politics, every decision you make comes into question. I agree with what you say, but it's not always so cut and dry when politicians are making that choice.
Yeah.
So I don't know that is always a tried and true answer without that, and I actually love that that's being explored in this.
And this is a good usage, though, of the freedom fighters.
100% agree.
To buy them time for that, political upstorm and that political maelstrom they can walk right into.
And it's a different kind of adventure than you would see for other teams.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I really like about freedom fighters is, I like, if you're going to do a new team book and a different kind of team book and bring it out monthly, it's got to have a very different feel and flavor. I love that what I'm reading here is very different from what I'm reading in Thunder Agents, what I'm reading in Secret Six, what I'm reading in Teen Titans, in the new Teen Titans and how that book's revamping now. These are all books, Justice League, I'm enjoying all this. But all of those books, everything I just said, not one of them feels the same. And that's really important if I'm going to pick up a new team book. This right now is on my short list, though, of books that I'm really digging right now.
Yeah, big time.
Easily right now in my top 10 of books that I'm enjoying. Because I'm that into Gray and Palmiotti. They're a creative team that since their Hawkman run, I've mentioned on the show, since we've been doing the show, how much they, along with John's, just built this love for Hawkman that I have of this character. Jonah Hex, and I will say it again, Jim, one of my goals is Jonah Hex monthly for you. And if you're not already doing it, I am so going to push for that. What were you going to say?
Guess what happened when DC announced the price drop of $2.99?
You're getting Jonah Hex monthly.
I was able to go through my budget, seeing what titles. I'm like, and guess what? I added a title.
Yes.
Jonah Hex is once again monthly.
Sweet.
Now, I do have to figure out how I'm going to deal with the gap. Am I going to go back and get the back issues? Am I just going to keep the trades, or how am I? Because I have trade. Well, I have floppies, then a big gap of trades, and then I'll be going back to the monthly. And I don't know yet if I'm going to keep just my trades for that, or if I'm going to fill in the gap. I don't know yet. I'm still thinking on that.
Here's something I'd like you to share with us on the show, though, because you probably haven't started getting your monthly issues yet, then, have you?
No, not yet.
Okay. When you start getting the monthlies of Jonah Hex, can you share with us if you're glad that it's monthly?
Oh, okay.
I mean, are you reading it in the monthly read? Are you stockpiling it? How are you approaching Jonah Hex? And if you're digging it, because it's a book that it's really important to me. I really dig the book. You don't have to feel the same way I do about it. I would like to hear, though, your thoughts on the show as you're reading it. Is it something? Are you still reading it the same way you were when you were reading it in trade, or is it like? Because you always talk about your Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday reads and all that. Where does it wind up? I would like to see where it winds up falling in that arrangement.
Yeah, and it's we're talking Gray and Palmiotti. These are writers. These are, again, those same writers that I'm like, I like these writers. I love their storytelling abilities and just how they how they lay out the story. I'm a Western guy, and it was Jonah was just one of those things that he was victim of of time, victim of finances, just victim of everything, and now I'm bringing him back in. So I'm kind of I enjoy the stories, I enjoy the reading. So it's just now I'm able to go back to monthly. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that first issue, the first monthly issue of it.
This is a book, though, Freedom Fighters, I want to go back to real quick, that I want to support on a regular basis on the show by making sure we shout it out, even if we not always able to do cover to covers on it. I want to make sure we're regularly popping in and talking about it, because I want. This is one of those books. It falls like into the Jonah Hex category where I'm always worried about the sales numbers of a book like this, and I want this to be around because it's fresh, it's different. I see Thunder Agents taking a role similar to this in my reading library, where it's a book that I really want to support because it is different. I read a lot of comics. I'm enjoying everything that's going on with the Bat books right now, immensely. But I want to read every so often something that's a little outside that. And then it's fun for me to read this and get a different flavor. It makes the DC Universe feel bigger to me, and that it's more of a real thriving world. When you're reading a book about conspiracy, like these conspiracies and things going on in this, I'm like, this is really cool. But it's a full-blown, full-on, high-action superhero book as well. There's some gorgeous sequences with Black Condor in this issue that were just plain stunning. And my love for, I've mentioned this, we've talked about Black Condor previously in other talks about freedom fighters before this series. He's part of the Hawk family, whether he's, directly related or not. He's got that look and vibe to him. A guy with wings who comes in and can beat down on things is something I tend to really enjoy in comics.
He's a cousin. He's a cousin of the
He's
Hawks.
a Hawk cousin. I like that. He's like a distant second cousin, twice removed or something. I don't care. But dude comes in. I like his backstory. I like his whole attitude. And this whole little twist. I didn't know that he had a thing for Phantom Lady. That might be new. I don't know where that came from. Because it seemed like it was hidden. It was brought up during this when he was having that discussion with that goddess that he was talking to.
I'm remembering one of the previous stories. They kind of, I don't want to say they hinted at it, but there was kind of a moment between the two of them where I'm vaguely remembering in my head saying, hey, I wonder if he's got a thing there, or if there's something going on. I think what it was is one of the times when she was really down. He was kind of like there. He wasn't, hey, that's okay, but he was giving her the attention that she needed to kind of like pick herself up, to step up, kind of deal. So it was like he paid more attention to her than he would of the other team members.
Yeah, and I kind of like that about I can remember that type of vibe. I didn't, I guess, give it a lot of detail. I do like this idea, though, that the freedom fighters just accepted that Uncle Sam's going to be coming back because that's what he does. Yeah. And they just went on and they continued on the mission. I like that element of them, that they kind of just firebrands taking the paper again. It reminds me of what I liked about the minis. We got to see that aspect about them, that they do operate. It's not always with Uncle Sam running the show. Uncle Sam's almost like their more interactive Phantom Stranger. And I really like his role in this book. It's a cool series.
Look at those strange little beetles. They look... Great neutron!
It's funny, one of the things we did on this episode, and I want to apologize to friend of the show, Myron Rumsey. We're going to have Myron back on. The week that I've been having this week, I've been sick for the last, really, about 2.5 weeks, fighting a heavy-duty sinus infection that I've been having, which I didn't know that was an infection. And we really were recording spur of the moment tonight to make sure we had a podcast for this week. So we're going to have him back on for Green Lantern Corps hopefully next week to finish up that discussion, because I do want to get back to that. So we're saving that. We're going to do another green discussion next week. But one book I wanted to talk about is, and Jim, you just mentioned this one, Generation Lost number 13. An ending I never saw, and let's just talk about it, an ending I never saw coming, the death of Magog. And Max Lord...
Yeah.
Surviving because of it. Now, here's the question. What does that mean? Did he stop the Kingdom Come, or did what he was doing, does that allow for the possibility of another Magog?
I don't know. Well, it's at the end there, Max Lord now has his life back. He ended the war before it begun. Now, was the war Kingdom Come war, or was there something else going to happen? I don't know, and I was just... completely shocked by this. I really, it's one of those things where you can see stuff coming. Never thought in a million years they'd not only kill off Magog, but the way they did it. I love Max Lord as a villain. I really wasn't around for this first run. I only caught in the aftermath of what he did, and I'm loving this guy. He's just this was a beautiful played puppet master just manipulating the circumstances. He gets Magog to attack Captain Atom, and they're, bashing, and he's firing, and it's just full-on fury, full-on power, massive amounts of energy going around, civilian lives in danger, and he's trying to siphon up the energy, and Max knows, he siphons up too much energy, boom, he's going supernova, he's dropping an atom bomb right in the middle of, public, domain and whatnot, and I was just like, wow, beautiful setup. Now we have, the world thinking that, Captain Atom there is a terrorist who exploded a nuclear-sized type ordnance in the middle of this crowded city. But not only that, he murdered in cold blood this defenseless man, Magog. And I thought that was just a great way to play it, because he tweaked with everyone's mind.
Why is his lance still powered up? Like, his lance, why no? It looks like it moved almost. How is that possible?
I think that's, Max messing with things. Max messed with his lance, tweaked it up, changed it around. He's Max Lord. Come on.
But, Yeah, I guess part of me wonders, did Max do that?
Yeah, I'm 100% Max messed with his lance, tweaked it up, fused it with some alien energy to make it so it would be even more irrational and more erratic, and it was a laid out plan. He needed more energy to go into him, so he would go Nova, so he would not be able to contain it and would have to explode out. This whole thing for me, I took it as one step after. It's the Puppet Master. This, boom. End game, point match, Max Lord. I loved seeing this play out. This is just a great villain, with the smarts, with the strategy, with just the power of the intellect over beating brute force, beating raw energy power. Right there. This was just a great villain.
My question is, we've seen in the Magog series, especially towards the end, that there's David Reed and then there's the Magog entity.
Yeah.
So my question is did what happened with Max Lord, did that kill David Reed or Magog?
I say David Reed.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
My question is, with what happened with the lance, is that a sign that the actual Magog entity is still around? Because he's being thrown into the time stream now. So I guess my speculation here is, have we seen the last of a quote-unquote Magog in this? Or, is he, well, first of all, is he going forward or backward in time? I think from blurbs I've read, it's forward. I might be wrong. Maybe it is back. I don't know. But, and have we seen the end of Magog? I don't know. I would be, if that is the death of Magog and we're done with him, that's fine. I don't know. It's funny how this series, the more it goes on, the more questions it brings about for me. And, actually, if we could jump back and talk a little bit about issue 12 as well. I loved the whole bit with Ice and getting to see her background and the fact that she was on the run, that this was something where she was looked at as like a goddess by her people.
Well, her people were gypsies or travelers, whatever.
Gypsies, tramps, and thieves.
Right. It's every culture has a different name for it.
Right,
I love the fact that they acknowledge that these are that same type of people.
I was hoping you'd start singing it.
No, I'm not going to. But
But Fire and their whole relationship and how really it was one of those moments where she had to go toe-to-toe with Tora and hopefully bring her back to the point where she could calm down and be able to be...
Yeah, that's some massive power Ice was throwing out there.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy the fact that she wasn't this nobility that everyone always thought she was. Granted, she's just the everyday person. She's the commoner. But not even just the commoner. Their people, they were looked on, and this is across the board as they're lower than even the regular commoner. They're these thieves, these gypsies, these whatever you want to call them, travelers, con men. It's just they get by the game. They get by conning, by stealing, by lie, cheat, and steal.
And her dad trying to get her out of that and to make her life better. I get behind those stories. I think that was really cool, like watching her dad, try to say, this is our chance to get her out of this. I don't want her to be thrust into this role. I want her to have a chance at a normal life. And for years he told her to hide her powers to keep her under the radar. That moment where, what was it, Grandpa was coming for her, and he's like, turn on your powers, kick him on, knowing that he was probably going to die. Because I'm sure at that moment Dad knew he was probably die himself. Yeah. In order for her to protect herself, he would have to sacrifice himself. And that moment where he put himself on the line to save his daughter there, that was just super cool. Her background is just an interesting story. It's funny, the more this series continues, Booster Gold, I so want to read more JLI.
Big time.
I'd like to see there be, and it doesn't necessarily be all of these characters. I think there's a lot of characters who were in the Justice League previously. I do think there's room for a second Justice League book after all this.
That was going to be my question. Would you want it to be called JLI, or would you want them to call themselves a different name, come up with a different name for the team?
I would like it to be called a different name. No, I don't know. I don't have an actual name in mind.
New monthly title, a different team.
Yeah. It's really tough because there's honestly, the truth of the matter is there's a lot of characters that I'd like to read monthly. There's a limited number of dollars that can go out there. Because, here's my question. Do I want a JLI and then it risks losing numbers for Freedom Fighters? Well, I don't know. That's kind of an interesting little tricky dilemma. Or do I want to see more miniseries like this where we spotlight characters that... kind of fall in that category where will they maintain a monthly or not? I don't know. This is a great example. We've talked about the weekly and how you and I have been a fan of the weekly books. What we really have is a weekly Brightest Day event going on, where it's Brightest Day one week, Justice League Generation Lost the next. You don't have to be reading both of them, but I'm liking the fact that on alternating weeks I'm getting on a bi-weekly basis these two books. So, and then we got bi-weekly that DCU online comic that's going to be coming out. The Source has preview art of that series. I'm excited for that to be coming out. So, I don't know. I don't know what I would do after this. Maybe a Justice League bi-weekly. Something like this where you spotlight a different group of characters. Or maybe, some of these same characters and throw in a couple different members. I don't know. I don't know what I would do.
It's a tough call because you can only have really so many titles out there. You
Sure.
don't want to have too many out there because you're going to flood and saturate your own market. You're going to make your fans choose between this book or this book.
And you don't allow attach rate to some of these smaller titles that are really innovative and cool. Like Freedom Fighters thing is innovative.
Yeah. Thunder
Agents right now, innovative. There's a lot of those titles that we've seen come and go. The Blue Beetle we thought was great. All New Adam we thought was great. Those are titles that I would have liked to have seen more attach rate to because they're cool. Jonah Hex, I think, is innovative. Yeah. So you're right. There's a limited amount of those different titles that you can take. Putting the Justice League label on it would certainly help. So I'm very torn on a second Justice League book. And I've heard some, we've had listeners on the show who said, wouldn't it be great to have a out-of-continuity Justice League book featuring, the Big Seven, or however you want to call them,
classics.
And I would love to read an on-continuity title like that. So I'm into that idea as well. So I mean, what do I want next? There's a lot of things I want next. I do think these bi-weekly and weekly concepts as great ways to explore some of these characters is a good way to handle a lot of characters in a unique way. You've got the whole JLI here. You've got Max Lord. You've done some cool things with Magog in this, formerly known as Magog in this whole series. It was funny. I was at the death of David Reed, I was very torn at the death of David Reed because I really liked him in his series.
I did like how he went out. He's sitting there like, no,
I did too.
Not like this, not like this.
Right.
Gone. And it was right as he realized everything that was going on. He realized what Max Lord did. He realized how he whitewashed everyone's mind and he had complete, full, total recall of what was going on, and boom, that's it. Game over. And I was just like, oh man, another person who could have helped them out is now gone. I was like, wow.
And he was played.
Yeah.
So totally played. I know it's one of those books that I've been thrilled to read and enjoy. Poor history for Magog, because there's moments where I've really hated him.
Yeah.
And there's moments where I've loved him. The Justice League, I wanted to see them beat him. I mean, Justice Society, I wanted to see them beat him up so bad, especially in JSA All-Stars, and I loved what happened there. But when he got exclusively into his solo book, I grew to really like the guy.
I know. It was a different taste and a different style of hero. And I was like, okay, yeah, this could be pretty cool. And, then the whole thing with Gog happened, and Magog, he still has the power. And then they start introducing this whole separate entity. I was like, where are they going with this?
Well, this changes, or does it, Booster Gold's timeline. He does a lot of good before that happens. So is this now the catalyst so that happens? Or has it been stopped?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because they had that whole thing with Magog where Booster couldn't do anything to him because he has a time of hero. So I don't know. Has
it changed now? Has it changed? I don't know. So I think we're going to find those. I think those answers are coming.
Yeah. Now
I don't think this is a throwaway.
Now here's the one thing that could be: what if this event is what sends Magog over to the other universe? Because we've already seen the connect. We've already seen people from that universe come over to here.
Does he blast through the time stream with Captain Atom?
Or does he, jump? Is this the birth of Magog in the Kingdom Come universe? So is he not really dead? I don't know. I was so convinced when this was, when I first read this first time through, that he's dead and done, game over. But then, second read-throughs with the time stream and with everything.
We're going to find Magog's parts are with those little entities in Freedom Fighters.
Yeah.
I like that. We actually didn't talk about that in Freedom Fighters. The fact that Phantom Lady chopped them up into little pieces and threw them in different dimensions.
That's right.
Is that what happened to Magog?
He's got a piece here,
A little piece there, in somebody's hair. It's a little Magog.
there, a piece everywhere, a piece.
Old Magog.
Wank boom. Hee-I-hee-I-ho.
We're going to Tranquility number 5. It was funny, after we did our 4.5-hour Simone Fest, I was gonna take like a month and not talk about Gale's work, just figuring that we'd kind of break away from it. Then issue 5 of Tranquility came out, and I'm like, let's forget about that. Let's just even if we just talk casually about it.
Issues like this that make me wish this was a monthly series.
Oh, so much so.
Oh my god.
It does have me wondering.
These characters.
I was encouraged to see this, that some of the Wildstorm titles are appearing under the DC banner.
Yeah.
So that we're going to see, even though that the Wildstorm line itself is canceling, there's a possibility that if we do get more Tranquility down the road, that it could be a DC-labeled title still. Because I do want to see, I'm hoping at some point in time we get an opportunity to see more of this series, because I love it. And honestly, this kind of film arc style is a cool way to deliver this. But Cereza here, I don't know here. What would you want to do? Would you want to become this kind of
spirit of vengeance kind of deal,
or she's paralyzed, right? Or is there a possibility of it? Is that what they were saying?
Yeah, possibility, paralyzed, possibility of death. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. Maybe she'll get lucky. I think if she gets lucky, she's only paralyzed. And then as problems go on, she could be paralyzed from the neck down, or she could have died. So it's, she doesn't have really the, happy ending.
Well, except is she paralyzed from the... I don't understand a whole lot about paralysis. I'm going to admit my own ignorance here. But we see her clutching that thing.
Yeah, I don't think it was... that when she was initially clutching it, that was back when she still had the fork in her, right? I don't think she pulled out the fork.
Wow, that's an interesting point. I'm looking back. I think you're right.
Yeah, because it was the... part of the thing when you have puncture wounds and stuff like that, where if you keep the item in you, you can actually do less damage when you actually remove the item.
Wait, but there is no fork there. Look. Does she have a fork in her neck there, or she already pulled it out?
Oh, okay, no, I stand corrected, yes. She already has it pulled out, because in this one scene you can see it right next to her. So she already pulled it out.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with her. I like you know what? I really love that in Tranquility, though. What are you going to do? We've got a retired speedster here.
Yeah.
Bring this guy in. Let's do everything we can. The odds are saying that we can't possibly make it in time. We're going to do everything we can to beat the odds. I love that feel. There's a feeling of hope in that, trying to do the impossible in that moment. I love the old guy saying, "This is what I do. It's my thing." And I love that enthusiasm, because I do think that there's something about the classic heroes. This actually fits a lot of the spirit of what I like about the JSA. In that sequence of that moment. I'm not saying he's Jay Garrick. What I mean, though, is it's got that spirit of these old-timers who, they're old school, and this is what it means to be a good guy. And, it's a lot of times we talk about how comics, it's become this gray area with heroes. And in this case, this guy, there's no gray area. This guy's a tried-and-true hero. It's right out there, right from the classic days. And
I love how his daughter sitting there, "Dad, don't do this. You stop acting like an old fool." But I like acting like an old fool.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, this is.
But what a great message for us. Sometimes I think we all should act like an old fool.
Yes.
And I'm really not joking when I say that. There's something endearing about that. And why is it so endearing? Because sometimes those messages and those feelings that you get, we should have. And I think that was a really, really cool moment. Flashbacks to their childhood and how we get to see that Mayor Fury and his wife were leading this life where they were keeping their son completely under the radar. And it really is like seeing this sequence with the horse paint. Did this happen? Is it the same one where paint was put into in the bucket?
That is
from a different perspective.
Yeah, that's immediately after the whole scene, because you see the nails that he pounded into. Yeah.
Well, I took the nail pounding was something that he'd done more than once. Or do you take it that was?
I took it that this is exactly taking place immediately after that scene.
Okay. So then is that paint's bucket over
there? I think that's right there on the dock, that bucket. I think that's got paint in it right there. And I'm like, wow. Because that's how I read this sequence. That it was if not immediately, very close to it. Because you look at how he's dressed, it's similar to, if you go back to that issue, it's the same, same clothing, same layout of everything. So that's how I took it.
It's interesting how well this is written because it makes me think of, when you teach in elementary school, you have these kids who say that they have boyfriends and girlfriends. And as a teacher, it's probably the most uncomfortable thing that a child can say to you because first of all, you don't want to acknowledge it. And if you do acknowledge it, you've got to always acknowledge it with a preference of your third graders or your fourth graders. You shouldn't be acknowledged, enough. You're too young for this. That's when I get crotchety. And for me to get crotchety is a very uncomfortable situation. So anyway, we have this type of thing going on with these kids, and how natural this was, because you see her going, okay, here's the deal. I'll be your friend, and you can hold my hand a little. Try and kiss me, and I'll belt you one. And if my mom sees us, I don't know you. Got it? And I'm sitting that would be the role of the girl. Absolutely, so much so. I've got girls that I've had as a teacher where I'm like, I could see this conversation going on. Where it really is purely innocent. They're really just friends. It's their concept of boyfriend and girlfriend is completely different than, as you get to an adult and what you think of that as. But I really loved these moments because it was so natural and it felt so real. And that's something where I've always thought it's a strength of her work is no matter what age range of character she's writing, what situation she's writing in the character, she goes out of her way to try and capture a real moment, something that feels natural in a fantasy environment. And that's something that balance there, you connect with it immediately. Yeah. I think as we were younger, we all had these moments where you're kind of like, and that's that you connect with your own childhood in these moments. Oh, yeah. And I really dug it. It was something very cool about this story.
One of the things I digged was when you're looking at these scenes of these two kids together, your main attention's always going to be on them. But if you look in the background, you'll see, Mayor Fury sitting there just making sure everything's going okay. He's watching over, making sure his son doesn't do something that would be dangerous towards Tommy. And I love seeing that in a couple of the different panels. You'll see him off to the side. You'll see him kind of hidden there. And that, for me, was just a really cool, nice background attention to detail.
The thing with Presley, we were talking about there, and I love that whole situation where, first of all, I love the whole explanation why he's got this game kid. I asked my niece to bring me a 6-pack of Fury Light, and she brought me this instead. Because it would be because I'm assuming now his niece shouldn't be bringing him Fury Light anyway.
Probably not.
Not if he got a game kid from the niece, or she's trying to tell Presley something about his habits, but which could be another possibility here. But I like this moment where she's saying, realizing that her sister's going to probably be here for a while, so why don't you move into my place at the time? Kind of feeling like, let's stick together, you're my responsibility. I'm the sheriff, Yeah. And I liked that moment. There was something about that sense of camaraderie and respect at that moment. It added this sense of a family atmosphere to Tranquility and the small town feel to it that I always liked about the series since its inception. Liberty Fighters 4.
Yeah.
I love the video game montage there. Here's the funny part. As I was reading through this, I'm like, I so would buy this game.
In a heartbeat.
What a great downloadable game this be. Or I can't imagine it'd be, there's probably so many engines out there. This would be a great thing. This
is the Street Fighter engine. Just do that,
not even. I'm saying there was a web game, to throw on. It would be a fun thing. Where should comics go digitally? Where should they go more interactive? If you're going to do a little joke like this, which is great, I love the humor of it. How cool would it be to eventually, in like an iPad digital comic, be able to click on a button and play like a little generic version where two of the characters you could actually fight with? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
That's where you could take that. But for those of us that get the paper copy, we have an access code to that. You know what I'm saying? So you could take, digital interactive where whatever version of the comic you've purchased, you can participate in digital content. That's where do we up comics? How do we up?
How do you keep with this market? How do you
using the free little game to bring you into the comic? Where maybe their introduction to the comic was, okay, who are these wacky characters, Black Glider, and these guys? All right, I'll check out the comic on them. I mean, I think those are ways where I was looking at. I started. Zeke. Honestly, Zeke should be an MMO. I would hang with Zeke on a daily basis. That says a lot about me. I actually probably shouldn't say that on a podcast. Anyway, Anyway, moving along right now. This whole situation and what it's done to the town, the Mayor Fury and his wife, this moment where he's got to make the decision, can I leave this burden on her or do I need to man up and handle this? I loved this.
Yeah.
He loved his wife enough at that moment to sit there and say, because he's distraught over this emotionally. He could have been, and I do feel this is a moment where he kind of made a sacrifice here. I could have seen her making the same choice at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're both cut from very similar cloths on that end. I am so totally convinced now that this man is 100% innocent.
Yeah.
And that what we're seeing right now is him manning up and kind of dealing with something that he should have dealt with a long time ago that would have never put him in this downward spiral.
Yeah, and it's, the whole thing with, you think about probably the biggest fear and the biggest, pain to any parent would be the loss of a child. Mm-hmm. And everyone always knows that and they know it. But how would it be that if your child was this monster and the only person who could put down this monster was you? How much of that would be pain? How painful would that be knowing that I have to now take out my own child? I'm the only one who can do it. It's on me, or innocent people / the world will end if I don't do this. That for me is just this huge burden that's on him, and I'd love seeing him just knuckle up and say, "This is what I got to do." Do you got anything that can kill a god? I was like, wow. It's moments like that just have me excited for the next issue, excited for the fight sequence, excited to see what his plan is to take out the guy.
I'm very curious to see, because we haven't gotten verification on this yet. I'm running heavy on the theory that Mayor Fury's redemption's coming. We're going to find out all along that Mayor Fury did nothing wrong.
And it was him.
It was the son, because we've seen the son dress up as dad before. Did he do it before? Did we see the son? Have we seen the son before this mini? Is my question.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like sitting here thinking maybe we have now. Whereas before I would never have said, "Oh yeah." I'm like, I'm not.
Was it the son's revenge for?
Yeah.
What happened? I don't know. So, however this ends, I love the fact once again that I'm speculating and I care enough about these characters to try and figure out what's happening. Yeah. I don't care if I'm right or wrong.
And it's funny because, again, after the end of this series, I'll go back and I'll start at the very first issue and read through the entire series again, see if I catch anything that I missed.
Which is why I'm hoping there's more.
Yeah.
I really, really do. Now, the whole thing with... I want to know what happened to the kid. He was pregnant. What did he do? Yeah,
how did he cause her to lose the baby? Because she says that later on that you took away this baby. It was his fault on that she doesn't have the kid anymore. And I want to know what and how. And there's just I was like, every single time they show more and more of their relationship, more and more, and then sure enough, bam, she drops the big bomb that she's pregnant. I was like, oh my God! Why? It's funny. I hit myself in the head. So why didn't I, of course, think that was going to happen? And it just, as all this plays out, I was like, dang it.
One of the pure joys of Worldstorm, when that whole exciting event happened, was Welcome to Tranquility. Because it was brand new characters, really unique. And I'm loving that we're still getting another batch of Tranquility stories. And I will say that this is a series that I'm so fond of. And that I'm encouraging anybody... if you've never read Welcome to Tranquility before, do yourself a favor. The first 2 trades collect the first 12 issues. And if you're like, I don't know if I want to try into that, pick up an issue of One Foot in the Grave. I think you're going to find just a wonderful, amazing world that you're going to get sucked into. It's got great artistic appeal. The characters are fresh and fun. It explores all the right beats of what's great about comics. It's great because deep, rich, engaging, serious stories that just don't take themselves too seriously at the same time. And I love that balance of it. And it is unlike any other comic that I'm reading, and that's something that I always try to give those high recommendations, because my personal feeling is when people are looking for a new book, they're looking for something different. Give me something that is going to expand my library, expand my horizons. Tranquility is one of those books, if you're looking for a different sort of superhero book, this is very different, and it's fresh and it's fun.
It's a deep character development, but it doesn't, sacrifice any of the action.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that I love about it. And it's a funny, title that is still serious. It's that whole yin and yang, kind of meshing together in the book. And that's why we always will rave about this. And this is a title that I always would recommend to people if they're looking for something a little bit different, but they like the classic comic book feel. They like these hero stories, but they want, maybe a little bit more, deeper meaning to it. But they want to have fun with it. Well, right there, this is giving it to you all.
The original series is also available on the DC Comics iPad app. So,
cool.
If you haven't been checking that out, there's another way to check it out. There's a lot of options on how to get this. To me, it's funny how I started picking, why do I know that? I've been picking up some of them on the app. Well, my personal hope, where do I hope digital comics are going to go when it comes to app releases as far as with paper comics? I'm hoping that there's eventually going to be an opportunity where those of us that buy the paper comics, because I don't see myself ever going just digital. I just don't. I usually use a digital for something that I'm not picking up in paper, just as a way to kind of try something different. I do like having comics that I'm not reading on my iPad, but I also like having some of the classics too. There's a nice batch of them. I'm a big supporter of the digital initiative. I never see it as being a replacement for paper. I think as long as people are going to want paper, they're going to buy paper. And I'm always going to want the paper comic. I love that kind of approach. But the digital offers a new medium, a new way to have comics, and different kind of portability, different type of collectability. And I'm hoping to see, I talked about some interactive pieces where you could now have, some games, like a portal. And I'm not saying it has to be a full-blown, PS3 Xbox game. I'm talking about a quick little one-level game that would be fun and interactive to play, that they could use a template for another web game that's already been out there in order to just plug the characters and just as something fun to dicker around with, as a little bonus for reading the comic. But I'd love to see a point where when you buy the paper comic, there's an option or a way to get the digital copy with it.
Yeah.
Whether it's paying a little bit more of a premium for the paper comic for that. When I say a little bit more, so I don't have to buy the same issue twice, but maybe, comics used to have the deluxe version and the retail version. Well, I look at this as if I could buy a deluxe retail version where I'm supporting, our local, in our case it's DCB Service, but that's our local, in many ways. And local retailers can be supported with their paper copies, and yet people can get their digital version. Yeah. I think there's a way to get both and to provide, those type of audiences and do a marriage between them. I don't know. I'd love to see where the digital initiative goes, and I think books like Tranquility will hopefully benefit from more sales through digital, which I think is good for retailers too, because it offers some choices.
Now I can get out of here!
Sometimes when you're recording on the Comic-Con show floor, we run into problems with there being a lot going on in the background, and sometimes the noise got in the way of our recording. This next segment is with our good friend Nathan from Comic-Con, and his father Mike always come by our table, and honestly, they're one of the things I look forward to at Comic-Con, because our first New York Comic-Con is where we met them, and we've gotten to watch Nathan grow up, and he's become a friend of the show, and kind of one of our highlights of hitting that particular convention. So in this chat with Nathan, I recovered almost all of the audio from our discussion without any issues, but there was one segment in the middle where the background, because of a concert that was going on at the time, we started to weave out a little bit and lose part of what Nathan was saying. So I'm going to stop partway through, fit in what Nathan was saying in a quick bit, and then go back into the discussion. Here with Nathan, our friend, actually Nathan from Comic-Con. I love when you call in actually and identify yourself with that. Nathan, what is the title or books that are grabbing you right now that you're really enjoying?
Oh, well, recently I've been loving the Batman titles. Batman Beyond, Detective, Streets of Gotham, Gotham City Sirens, everything that has anything to do with Gotham. Red Robin, everything. Batman Beyond starting from the TV show, which is why we picked that one up. And,
now, did you watch the TV show before you were reading the comic?
Yes.
Okay.
I started with the TV show. I watched it when it was on currently. Then I still have it on DVD now. Okay. It's still my favorite comic TV show to date. It's better than the Batman animated series, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited, anything. What
do you think it is about Batman Beyond that gets you excited? What do you like about the concept?
I don't really know. I think that it's in a different environment. It's kind of like an Elseworlds, not really.
Right.
Teenager. I mean, I relate to that. I mean,
So do you see it's like the connection with, like, wow, maybe I could do this, or that type of thing?
No. No.
But you can relate to the character because of his age, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. You mentioned the comic. What is the comic? What's grabbing you about the comic?
Loving the whole Hush story. The news about it being an ongoing series soon.
Yeah.
Is it's very exciting.
I was thrilled to see it as an ongoing because each issue of the mini as it's come out, I've just been grabbing it right away and devouring it.
You were saying, I was just listening to your podcast on the way down here. You were talking about how you're not sure if it's Hush or not. Me and my dad always thought it was either Tim Drake or Dick Grayson, because in the TV show, Tim Drake was Joker. But we were thinking maybe Dick Grayson, but at the end of the issue I just read, which I'm a month behind, don't spoil anything.
Say anything.
They showed Dick Grayson, so we're like, no, it's definitely not him. So I thought Jason, no, it's cheesy. I can't really figure out who it is. I think
it's the mystery you're liking.
I don't think it's the original Hush, just because one, it's kind of lame, I think, and two, he's not wearing the jade necklace that his mother gave him.
That's a good clue. You know, I didn't notice that. That's an interesting clue.
I was looking for that every single issue. I was looking for that.
So you've really been being a detective yourself and kind of following along, trying to determine.
Yeah.
That's what I actually like about the Batman world. What I like about stories like R.I.P. and things like that is the mystery, trying to solve it yourself. I like knowing that the bad characters are always like one step ahead of us. There's something more. But I do like that clues are laid out. That there's elements there that we can follow and try to figure out ourselves who's doing what. I like your connections to the cartoon, though, how you're looking back and saying, well, but this is what Tim Drake did when, he was in there, and then the Return of the Joker storyline. That's cool.
I'm blanking out. What's the comic out right now with the fake Jokers and the Guardian Batmans?
That's Detective.
Detective, right. Me and my dad have figured out, we think, who the main Guardian Bat is.
Who?
It's the Joker. It's the fake Joker at the same time.
You think it's the fake Joker doing both?
Doing both to emit chaos.
Why do you think he's doing both?
Because if he's emitting chaos through villainy, he's also emitting chaos through citizens wanting to step up and kill other people, and it's making the entire city go insane.
It is interesting how it's been like a call. These Jokers, with them running all around the city, has kind of made a call to action for there to be more vigilantes.
Yeah. You like the cowboy Batman?
I do.
He's my favorite.
It was funny at first when that storyline kicked off. I'm like, really? They're going here with it? But as it's developed,
I knew it was the college kid the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of obvious.
I like, though, that they aren't, even though they're dressed up as Batman, we're seeing that putting on the costume does not make you Batman.
Oh, yeah,
doesn't mean that you have the same morals, the same sense of reasoning behind what you're doing.
Considering the first Guardian Bats we saw shot the Jokers with crossbows.
Right, exactly.
And he's obviously not Batman. I saw that belly.
Right. So we actually see, though, it's very telling that people don't understand Batman. Because of the fact that he doesn't have that public eye and that public persona, they don't know who he is and what his motivations are.
They don't know what he's gone through.
Exactly.
That has made him not kill.
And that right, exactly.
Like in the Superman Batman anniversary one, with the whole cartoon Lex Luthor and cartoon Joker, put it exactly the way. Joker tries to get Batman to kill him, because he knows that it's against everything Batman's against, so he'll lose. And Batman's never crossed that line. Yeah. So that's what makes him Batman, and no one really understands that.
And the citizens don't necessarily know that that's part of his operating.
Yeah, exactly.
They might have ideas of it or things like that, but because they don't interact with him, even like we do as readers, we respect him because we know that's part of his kind of his edict. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to kill.
Yeah.
But the general citizen in Gotham, how would they know that? Because they don't get to see him the way we do.
They know he hasn't killed the Joker, obviously. They know he hasn't killed Two-Face or Cobblepot, but they don't know if he kills random thugs.
Right.
Because maybe if they're thinking about it long enough, maybe he kills thugs because no one would realize that he's killing the thugs, and they'd realize if he's killing the Joker.
you got to also remember, how much do the police report of what Batman does? Do they report every single criminal that he captures?
Oh, of course not.
Right, exactly.
And some of them are going to say, oh yeah, that was me, I captured him.
So a lot of these citizens that are donning Batman costumes are donning them not totally understanding him, and I love that aspect of it. And the same thing with the villains that are following the Joker. I mean, they're being drugged and following because of this drug that's out on the street.
And the scene with Dick taking it,
yes,
that was great. It was that he is my Batman. Truthfully, I don't want Bruce back. I want Dick.
Even though they're going to be doing this Batman Inc. thing where we're not losing Dick?
I don't like Bruce anymore.
See, I love Bruce.
I'm reading Batman Returns, or Dark Knight Returns. I don't like it. I'm hating the story, actually.
But even though you know you're going to get the best of both worlds, they're keeping both?
Yeah. I want just Dick Grayson. Because, and speaking of which, I love how everybody acknowledges that they know it's a different Batman.
Oh, I like that too.
Commissioner Gordon realizes it. The entire police force realizes it. And the first person we ever see do that, Two-Face.
Here's the funny part. Bruce is going to agree with you that Dick Grayson needs to stay Batman. So I'm going to be curious to see why Bruce says that. I want to see his reason.
I'm hoping it's not going to be like Marvel, where Batman's going to step aside and be head of, some weird corporation.
We know he's not stepping aside because there's going to be Bruce titles.
Yeah, but
there's Dick Grayson titles.
There's been events that's been known to copy Marvel or copy DC.
I don't see this being though.
Eventually, I mean,
I don't see that happening though because the concept Morrison's got for Batman Inc. isn't that there's going to be one Batman anymore. There's going to be more than one. So I don't see it being that situation. I'm curious to see why Bruce is going to do this and the conversation he has with Dick. Because Dick right now is looking at it as he's holding onto the cowl until Batman returns.
Especially because Dick wasn't supposed to have the cowl.
Right.
The whole thing with Bruce in that huge pod, his will was he straight up told Alfred, keep Dick away.
I'm dying to see the conversation between the two, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because really, is Bruce going to have to convince Dick to stay Batman, or what is that going to be like? Because I really do think that Dick Grayson's expecting.
I'm hoping
he knows he's alive.
Yeah.
And we know we're keeping because I know Dick Grayson's going to be in at least 3 of the books, maybe more.
Yeah.
He's definitely Batman and Robin, definitely in Batman, and definitely Detective Comics
right now. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying when Bruce returns.
Oh yeah.
Dick Grayson's staying in all 3 of them.
I think he's still going to stay in Justice League.
Oh, he is. He's going to stay the leader.
I'm liking the team, but I don't think that Grant Morrison's or James Robinson is really pulling it off. Truthfully, I think he's lost his thunder a little bit.
I'm going to disagree with you and say that I think the arc where you might change your mind is going to be this next Crime Syndicate one.
Yeah.
The team has still been building.
Yeah.
See, and that
you're positive about every comic. You're strongly on.
Well, no, but we don't talk about every comic on the show.
Something like that.
Yeah, but think about it. Do we talk about every comic that DC publishes?
No.
We tend to pick out our favorite ones that we're enjoying right now.
Well, except for All-Star Batman and Robin. We know how much you hate that.
No, I don't hate the book. I don't like Batman.
That was the first voicemail I ever sent in. It was about you hating that, too.
I don't hate the book. I don't like Batman. There's a difference. Because I wouldn't drop
the main character.
Yeah. Well, no, but he's not the only main character. Like Robin, I love in it. Gordon.
I miss that. I'm missing that comic, truthfully.
I want to see the end of it too. So that's what I'm saying. I don't hate it. I don't hate the book.
They're rewriting it.
They're not rewriting it. They're going to continue it.
Kind of.
Yeah. All-Star Robin, the Boy Wonder.
Yeah.
I think they're retitling it so they can continue the story on and get some new readers maybe to check it out.
I was just listening. Like I was saying, I was just listening to your Batman podcast, and the cult. Great story. You were saying like who your Robin was.
Yeah.
I started into comics with Teen Titans.
Oh, okay.
That was always my favorite book for a long time until I introduced myself to Jeff Johns meeting Green Lantern.
but was it Jeff Johns' Titans that you were reading first?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The first comic I read was Jeff Johns' Titans.
Okay.
Which I have him signed, #1. But the first real thing I had with Teen Titans, Teen Titans Go.
Oh, okay.
So my first my first Robin was Dick Grayson, because that's who Robin was.
Did your enjoyment of comics come from that cartoon then, or was it from that comic? Okay.
I think it was. I think it was from my dad, truthfully, because he was a colorist of Marvel. I was a comic fan since I was born, pretty much.
Oh, cool.
I would sit in his lap and watch him color the comics when I was little. So, yeah. So then it got into Teen Titans, which spread out to other books, saying, "Oh, you might like this." And my dad starts buying the ongoing series for me,
So it was Go. You're talking about the Teen Titans Go series.
Teen Titans Go TV show.
Right.
So Teen Titans, it branched off into different things. Like I got the Robin series, I got Batman series.
You're enjoying Teen Titans Go made you want to read the titles.
Well,
kind of graduate.
My dad kind of just placed it in my lap. Read this, because I was liking Teen Titans Go. He knew I was, so he started ordering Teen Titans #1, which had just come out around that time. Okay. So I'm looking forward to Young Justice.
The cartoon, I am too, and the book as well.
Yeah. My Robin is Tim Drake.
Good.
Tim Drake.
Jim would agree with you on that.
Yeah. I'm loving Damian.
Well, it's funny. Your Robin was your first Robin. So.
My first Robin was Dick Grayson, but my favorite Robin is Tim Drake.
I don't feel like I want Dick Grayson back as Robin.
Oh, no.
So, but I mean, he was
your
my
favorite
first Robin.
as Robin.
But I grew up with the concept of Dick Grayson was Robin.
Yeah.
Jason Todd, Tim Drake. So I'm used to the changing Robins with the times.
Technically, mine was Dick Grayson because Teen Titans Go, the cartoon, had Tim's outfit, but it's Starfire hitting on and Robin, so I just put it together, Dick Grayson.
How do you feel about, then, Damian? What is it about Damian that you like?
He's just this rebellious little punk that I want to slap around. I know I'd get my butt kicked. I'd probably get my head sliced off by a sword, but
Do you find him likable, though, too, now? Are there things that you like about him, or is it that you want to smack him around?
Both.
Yeah, okay.
Best of both worlds.
I agree with you.
I've been meaning to say this. How do you feel about the comics dropping down $1, but also dropping 2 pages?
Well, it's 8 pages. It's dropping the ones that are. You've been dropping to
22 to 20.
Well, honestly, I think dropping the $1 right now is something that they need to do.
Yeah, everybody needs to do that.
Right. I think that the $3.99 price point, is the honest truth is, will I still buy books at $3.99? Yes.
Of course, yeah. But
I like the backup features, so
yes.
I'm sad that we're losing those. Seeing it from a different perspective, I think for new readers, if you're trying to bring a new audience in, I think the $3.99 price point is really high for a new reader who's never read comics before.
Oh, of course.
To try and say, I'm going to follow this every month. So I think it's a good move to say, okay, we've got to really look at not just our current audience who want to pick up more titles, but potential new people with movies coming out like Green Lantern.
Yeah.
You've got big media, but if you got a $3.99 price point, it really is off-putting for people to follow.
Truthfully, if a book was $2.50 or $1.99, I would go back to crappy paper. I would back in the 80s. The rough paper.
Well,
I would read that if it was cheaper.
Billy Batson and Tiny Titans used to be on that paper.
I don't read Johnny DC anymore.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I do read both of those books. They used to be on that paper. Titans Go was when you were reading it.
Oh, yeah.
It was on that paper. They switched just recently to the higher quality paper, and the price point, to me, I liked the cheaper price point on that cheaper quality paper for the Johnny DC books.
Well, it only makes sense. The reason it's so high is because of paper prices, and you wouldn't think about it, but oil prices. Mm-hmm. Oil, to deliver everything, that's costing everybody money. You have to pay for deliveries.
The price point is something where I think it's a good thing. Obviously for me, it's a good thing. I'm going to be saving money on the comics. I'm a little sad because, do you like the co-features? Have you liked those, or they haven't been for you?
So. There's some that I love, some that I don't like. Like the recent one that was in that terrible JSA JLA crossover.
The Cyborg and Red Tornado
Cyborg and Red Tornado was so lame.
See, and I like that because did you read the Red Tornado mini?
No.
Okay. See, I like Red Tornado a lot, so for me that was great. But if you don't like the character, then it's not. See, you're actually justifying, maybe for people who don't like those backup features, the cost savings, giving them back the books that they want to read without having that. So in your case, you're saying you're glad the the co-features are gone if it gives you a cheaper
Most of them,
price.
yeah. There were some that I was like...
What did you like? Actually, let's go that route then.
Manhunter.
Yeah.
I would say that was the best thing about the entire Streets of Gotham thing, besides it being a Damian mostly story.
Right.
Like if it was like when it was a Batman and Robin story, I was like, oh cool, Manhunter. But when it was a Damian story, I was like, yes, Damian. But when it was like the initial one before Jane Doe.
Yeah.
It got a little bit iffy at the end with Jane Doe. I mean, it was still good, but the Two-Face one was amazing.
Yeah.
Just because DA and former DA.
Did you read any of her series before it became a backup, or was that your first exposure?
A little bit, but I didn't really like it all too much. I thought.
So the co-feature actually got you into the character of
Yeah,
Manhunter.
I thought the whole thing about like her being this like vigilante and also being a lawyer. It's kind of it's been done before.
So you liked
Daredevil.
it? Yeah. So you liked it when she came into Gotham and was the
Yes.
DA in Gotham?
Yeah. Well, only because of the Two-Face story.
Okay.
Because DA, former DA, like.
Now that you've read that co-feature with Manhunter, would that make you interested if they started a new Manhunter series keeping her DA? Or was it just a character that you liked as a co-feature?
Yeah, she's one of those. I wouldn't put her in a normal comic.
Okay.
If I was one of the people in charge of DC, I'd be like, I wouldn't put her in a normal comic. I think co-feature is where she should stop. Truthfully.
I loved her in the solo series, but that's interesting to hear you talk about that with being.
The Cyborg and Red Tornado one wasn't the only thing wrong with that JSA JLA crossover.
In the beginning of this segment with Nathan, you talked about how the current Justice League team, and this was well before issue 50 had come out, he was talking about how he really liked the lineup of the team, but that the story just wasn't grabbing him yet. And when we got into a later part of our discussion, the other thing that was bothering him is he was talking about in JLA, I believe it was 48, there was a bit where at the end we got to see Dark Supergirl. And in the Dark Supergirl bit, you see it was supposed to be Daily Planet in the background, and it ended up being Daily Bugle on the side, which I totally took as a quick little panel artist error from Mark Bagley, because of the fact that he'd worked for so long on Spider-Man books, and it was just an error. But he was asking questions. He said, who should have caught that? Was it editorial, or was it the artist, or at some point checks and balances? It was funny. I could see that be something that bothers somebody. In my case, I don't usually get bothered by that. I see it. I mean, I catch it just like everybody else does, and I can understand some people get really angry about it. Some people, don't care. Some people fall in the middle, and there's not really a right or wrong answer there. Just to share my own personal take on it, because it really bothered Nathan. My own personal take is I look at it as there is an intense deadline to getting these books out on time. You're trying to get these books out in a 30-day stretch. It goes through a number of people who are really quickly trying to do it. I don't know who should have caught that. And I don't know, maybe they hit a point where they did catch it, and what are you going to do? You've got to get the book out. So sometimes, a panel error here and there. My personal opinion, I really like Mark Bagley's artwork. So I think if you really enjoy an artist, you can kind of sit there and go, okay, this was an error, we just kind of move along. I think if maybe it's not your favorite artist or, something like that, that's really might start to bother you more. I don't know, I don't really know what the answer is on that one. There really isn't a right or wrong answer on that, though. I think we're all different as far as what kind of leeway we give. I've been reading comics since the 70s, so this isn't obviously far from the first art era I've seen. I grew up with them. They happen. It's just one of those things that happens in comics. I grew up as a kid where you'd see, I'll give a great example of, I was going to use an Uncanny X-Men example. I don't want it to be a bashing Marvel thing. I remember issues of Justice League where, a character's cape was colored differently on a page or something like that. And I'm just throwing out a random example. And that was something where, you'd see it on a panel where, all of a sudden their cape that was supposed to be blue was green or something like that. Just throw out a random, just a random point for the sake of the discussion. And then you go back into the story. So there are things, I don't know, I've always grown up with. It wasn't just coloring errors. It was sometimes an art error or a word balloon was on clearly the wrong character or something like that. They happen so infrequently. I noticed them, and sure, it takes me out of the story during that time, which I'm not a fan of. So, it is something that's there. I don't want to say that I'm ambivalent to it. It's an interesting discussion point, though. I think we all have different things that, really... my understanding is, I guess I understand the production process, and my rule of thumb is I want my books monthly on time. So, will I take an occasional error? Now, if it was throughout the entire book, or if it was, quite a few errors or something like that, yeah, that would really start to annoy me to no end. Because I'm like, well, you should catch that. But a panel here and there doesn't bother me. I want my books on time. So I will sacrifice an occasional mistake. And I'm sure when those mistakes happen, like, I would love to see behind the scenes what the discussion was that took place over that Justice League issue. I'm sure somebody caught it, and that's not going to happen again because of it. But I mean, that's part of the par for the course. I don't know if and if you don't agree with me, I'd love to hear your further thoughts. How do you feel about those things? Do those errors really get under your skin to the point where you're angry about them, or are they just things where you're like, mildly annoying, things like that? So feel free to add to our show discussion in our forum or on Facebook or places like that to give us your thoughts on that, because it's an interesting discussion point. So my thing is, under the time crunch, I can understand people not catching a small mistake like that, because if you take a look at it was the small ball in the background, although it'd be a larger art page when they see it. So I don't know. I thought it was cool that Nathan brought it up. It was an interesting discussion point that was something that was also taking away from him. But it was clear that he didn't like the crossover, so I'm wondering if maybe when it got to the point that he saw that, he already didn't like the crossover, and that added to that, which is something I wish I'd had the chance to ask him. Because I wonder if you're really thoroughly enjoying a story and something like that happens if you give it a little bit more... Because clearly I was coming up from a different perspective where I was liking the crossover a lot. So maybe for me it wasn't as big of a deal, whereas maybe if I wasn't enjoying the story, I might have been more on Nathan's end of it, where it would have angered me because I wasn't liking the story. So I don't know. I think maybe sometimes that'll just increase an emotion that was already in place. One other part of the discussion with the Justice League that we lost, he was talking about an art issue with one of the Green Lantern costumes, but even more importantly, he was talking about the conclusion of Jade's storyline, which, it's interesting. I don't feel Jade and Obsidian's storyline with what happened there. I felt with the Brightest Day storyline, what happened there was the kickoff to the bigger story with Jade and Obsidian. So I don't think that's over yet. Now, I actually agree totally with Nathan if the story's done there, which I think we're seeing that that's not going to be finished. But if that story is done there, I would be very disappointed as well. But I thought that was meant to be, okay, this happened, now the real story begins with these two. So it's interesting because these Brightest Day events that are happening, I don't know that necessarily every single one of them is going to be an ending to that person's tale. They might actually be the beginning to their story. I would like it actually if they all finish a little differently. In the sense that not every time a White Lantern event or the White Ring event for these 12 that were brought back necessarily all ends like, wow, bam, that happened. Now storyline is done. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see how that's going to be. Like Deadman's, I'll go to Deadman's just for an example. Deadman's being alive again, I think, is going to be the beginning of interesting and new things for him, not the ending of his story. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how that goes. And anybody with the Jade and Obsidian storyline, I think this is something we're going to have to follow up on down the road where we see where this storyline is going to go, whether or not there was a payoff to that event. I think it's too soon to say. But there was something that bothered Nathan was the way that ended. And I can understand that if you were looking for finality there. I just don't think that every one of these White Lantern events was meant to be finality. I think it was each one of them is crafted in such a way as far as to benefit a direction for the characters and somehow fit them back into the DC universe in a way that makes sense. And I don't think we've seen that yet for Jade and Obsidian. We haven't seen where this is going. I would be very disappointed if that storyline doesn't go somewhere, and I can't imagine it didn't. You got these two characters separated in such a way that if they come back together, it causes a big problem. Why and where is that going to go? That's something I think that's a storyline that's yet to be resolved. That's just my personal opinion. I could be totally wrong, but we'll see. It was another interesting conversation point, though, with Nathan, where he was sharing that was something that was taking away from the story for him. And I think I'll be curious to see from Nathan, and actually, Nathan, I'm sure you'll probably hear this at some point, after we get a resolution for that, or after we get a follow-up on that storyline, give us a call to the show and let us know how you felt about that. Did it fix things for you? If you read that, did it fix things for you? Were you glad the direction that they ended up going with Jade and Obsidian? So
I read a comic a day, pretty much, and there's so many that it pops in my pile. I'm like, yes! Like, cool. Secret Six. I don't know how much you love that.
Yeah, that's a great... Is there one where you looked at the cover and been like, I don't know if this is for me, and then you were like, wow, I really enjoyed it?
Legacies.
Really?
Yeah.
So it was one that... what was it, the cover when you first saw it? You were
no, early cover. I saw the aspect of it, like the idea of it, and I was like, but the whole thing with the kid narrating it through the entire thing is such a great idea.
I like that too, the interconnecting character who's all the way through, and we see him age as the story goes on.
I think they should have delayed that the one about how they started making up vigilantes, like the guy with the raccoon hat on TV, the Cowboys. I think they should have delayed that one until, even though I don't like the title, the Return of Bruce Wayne, Return of Batman thing, they should have delayed it until after that and showed the cowboy version of Bruce Wayne on that TV screen. On the TV screen, that they showed all the cowboy vigilantes that are on TV. Yeah.
I think why they wouldn't do that though is because Legacies is meant to show the history of DC all the way through, and that technically is something that's being written now.
Even if they don't even say it, it's just off on the side. Like that'd be still kind of cool. One I didn't like that me and my dad recently quit because we just thought it was a good idea. It was a decent story, but we don't want to pay to see it.
Okay.
Superman.
Oh, the grounded
strolling
story?
Around, yeah. I mean, it was okay.
Did you like him before that?
Yeah, of course. I've always loved Superman.
So you like
not as much as Jim.
Did you like the new Krypton stuff and all that?
Oh yeah, but the World of New Krypton 12-issue series was definitely prolonged because it was only supposed to be 6, and then the story, and then the War of.
Did you like the war?
Oh, that was great. And I love how like a week later people still didn't know what the hell happened because it happened so fast.
Right. I actually like the aspect of the speed and the storytelling.
Oh yeah, that was great.
So you didn't like it? Are you reading Action Comics then with Lex Luthor?
Yes. Oh yes.
So you're liking that?
That is great.
Do you see yourself coming back to Superman after he's done with his walkabout?
I don't know. I'll have to see what the next story is.
Okay.
And most likely, if I'm not liking the next story, a tie-in will make me and my dad get it again.
Okay.
And then go on. Oh yeah. Or if a new writer goes on, we'll probably get it.
Okay, so you're not necessarily permanently away from Superman, just right now you're kind of giving it a breather.
Right now we're just like,
Is there a book that you would like more people to read? A book that you're thinking, geez, I would really like it if more people read this because I really like it. What is your favorite type?
Green Lantern. Always.
Okay.
I mean, besides that, because whenever my dad asks me, what's your favorite, comic out, what's your favorite character right now, I almost always exclude Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, because that's always the answer. Always. Right. So, my dad recently asked me, what's your favorite title out right now? Batman and Robin has been fluently great.
Okay. Well, Nathan, I want to wrap up the segment right here, but I want to thank you for your continued support. I love your phone calls when you call on the show. One of my joys of coming out to New York Comic Con is always seeing you and your dad. And this wouldn't be the New York Comic Con if we didn't get a chance to chat with you guys. So it's good to see you, buddy. Is there anything else you want to tell our listeners before we kind of sign off here?
Hello, Sean and Jim.
I want to thank Nathan one more time for joining me for that little segment. Hopefully that came out good for those of you listening. I only lost about 10% of Nathan's conversation because of audio difficulties with the background, which is interesting on the show floor. We honestly lost very little with all the podcasting we did at the con. When you think about over these recent episodes, how many hours we got from New York Comic Con's show floor itself. We got 90%, I think, of our overall recordings without many issues, considering the amount of background noise we had at New York Comic Con. I want to thank, once again, Reed and the New York Comic Con for having us there. I thought it was just a wonderful experience to be a part of the New York Comic Con, and it was great to hang out with the entire podcast arena. Such great podcasters. I met some people who I'd never met before, and it was just such a wonderful experience to just, everyone was so pleasant and fun, and I just really had a great time. So thank you all for anybody who stopped by the table, or anybody who was there one last time, and hopefully you enjoyed this year's New York Comic Con coverage and some of the segments and of conversations that we had there. And next week we will be back with listener voicemails, and we will be doing big segments on each episode of listener voicemails until we get all caught up, because we've got a number of them. Please keep those phone calls coming in. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you a part of the show.
Great molecules! They're programming the computers for a chain reaction to blow up that atomic pile!
So this last segment is the last couple interviews. There were times during the con where it's funny with Raging Bullets. Always fun to see Jim in a hosting role because he doesn't get a chance to do it very often. And when I left the table, Jim got a chance to, in various segments that you've heard throughout this, do his own hosting. So there were times where I literally came back midway through some of these conversations, like, what in the world is he talking about? Which is so much fun for me because his approach is so different, and it's kind of a fun little refreshing segment for me. So these were fun for me to edit because most of these I didn't get to hear myself because I wasn't there. So, or I came back partway through, as you'll hear in at least one of the segments where I came through and I was scratching my head. I really enjoyed the New York Comic Con. I enjoyed being there with Jim as always. Jim and I joke around on the show a lot of times, but I will say there's nobody in the world that I have more respect for than Jim Segler. He's just such a great guy to work with. So, anytime that I joke with him on the show, and he does truly know this, it really is meant in fun. And I hope you enjoy these segments as much as I enjoyed hearing Jim in the hosting role.
And we are back, and once again, I'm being joined by
Rob Schaefer.
See you again. Met you before. It's kind of cool.
Oh, it's a great time. I have a great time here. It's so much fun.
Yeah, this con has just been a ball for us. This is a really fun time, high energy, and you're enjoying your time here.
I'm having a blast. Yeah.
And you're saying you're going to be going over to see Nicholas Scott, who is here.
Yeah.
Try to get a signature. That's all. That'd be nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing her at the. Hopefully to get a sketch. So.
I know. She's one of the creators I've never had a chance to meet yet, which I'd really like to. And we didn't know she was going to be here, so we were like, we just found out. So hopefully Sean and I both are trying to find a time where we can just go over and say, hi, we love your work. Thank you very much. Kind of deal.
Because she's going to start, she's told me she's going to start the Teen Titans soon.
Yes. She and JT Cruel are going to be on there. And I was just at a panel with JT Cruel was on there, and he was talking about how they're going with they're really going to be working on building the team. It's, a family feel. Definitely going to be a nice variety of characters. They got Damien on the crew. He's going to be there. Ravager is going to be there. So there's going to be some definite mixing going on there. But it's definitely building on what is Teen Titans and who these are about. It's really they got a direction on where they're going and some long-term planning. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're going to do.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm looking forward to that too. I have a gift for you and Sean.
Well, thank you.
I have a couple comics that just wanted to bring you both. I have some Muppet comics, Muppet Peter Pan and Muppet Robin Hood. I know Sean and the kid brings a lot of things to school to the kids to read, so that's a fun thing to read. I know it's not DC, but I have a couple issues of an old series called Claw the Unconquered, which the significance of that is being played out in Return of the Blue Screen right now.
The time travel, the vanishing.
So read a couple of those, and that'll give you a little bit of a backstory and kind of thing.
Oh, cool! Thank you.
A couple issues of Batman the Detective from 1984-85 type of thing. It'll give you some backstory on Jason Todd when he was Robin before they redid things after the crisis. So this is pre-crisis Jason Todd. Some interesting stories, and it'll give you a little insight as to how he was before, because he's a little bit different than he is now.
And as much as I like Jason Todd, I've never read any of the pre-crisis stuff. I've never really. I found about Jason after he was dead.
Yeah,
and I'm going back with the Red Hood story and all that stuff is my introduction really to Jason Todd. So that's definitely kind of cool. Thank you very much.
Sure, my pleasure.
So are you enjoying the return of Bruce Wayne?
Oh yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Cool.
I didn't expect it to be as much Booster Gold, and then
I know.
that's a pleasure to see.
He's a neat character. I'm loving what they're doing with him and just how they're playing him out. Where we know more than what the actual people in the universe does. It's a cool thing to see.
Yeah.
But, well, I don't want to keep you from signing with Nicholas Scott. Go over there, have fun.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for the comics, man. You're awesome.
Thank you. Take care.
And we are back, and once again, we're being joined by...
Hey, it's me. You guys remember Geeks Unite? Well, I was the co-host of Geeks Unite till I lost all my money. But it's Juan de Jesus from Geeks Unite. I'm proud to be sitting next to the Sensei of the Whatnot.
I'm actually glad to have you on the show, dude, because, man, you're a cool guy. I really always enjoyed every time we hang out and just chat at the various events and or whatnot that we see each other. So
events and or what? God, I miss that so much. The events and or... Can you do me a what's ish just once?
You know what? I'll give you a...
Oh, people, you don't know how much that I miss that.
Someone who appreciates the Tao, the Zen of whatnot, and the power of the whatish.
So
outstanding.
It's pandemonium here, Jim.
Dude, man, this is just an amazing thing. And I've talked about it a couple times now, so people who have been listening to multiple things may be a little bit annoyed hearing me, but this is just a high energy in this room, high crowd, high energy. People are having fun. I took a picture with the Joker, and the guy was in character. Now, a lot of times, it's not unusual for someone, wearing the makeup to be in character, but this guy really was going into it, was really having fun with it. He had a good Joker laugh, too. A good, animated series Joker laugh that just kind of reverberated. So I was really, I had fun with it, and that was like kind of a neat thing,
I like that there's two cons at once, and no one's fighting. Everyone's just coexisting, and everyone's welcoming, and that's the atmosphere that I wish people could see and people could take away from this. It's just that being a comic book fan and being an anime fan, you both love characters, you love the development of that character, and here's a place for you to share that, with other people.
Hey man, this is definitely a strong cross-promotion. This is, we're two universes that do fit well together, We're peanut butter and chocolate. We go great together.
I like more, I'm a Nutella type guy, though.
Okay.
So, I got that hazelnut,
Ooh,
and with like a little bit of strawberry jam, and that's what I think Anime Fest is that little bit of sweetness, that little bit of super fun characterization that's missing from some comic books.
Damn, that's good.
I know.
That's outstanding.
It's like dating a redhead. It's just good.
Well, okay. I'm going to keep moving on that subject.
Exactly. Because I think some of the fans it's like, oh, he started talking about ladies. Let's get back to the comic books. So.
Well, you know what? Actually, speaking of ladies, we're seeing a lot of females. And in the past, it's been a lot of females that just their girlfriend, it's a girlfriend or a wife or somebody else. And you see that bored look on their face as they're walking around saying, oh, God, when's this going to end? Not this time. I'm seeing a lot of fans, a lot of female just geeks jumping in there, having a ball. It's a combination of people in costume, in character, but also people diving through bins, looking for bargains.
I can tell you exactly when that started. When Dick Grayson became Batman.
Oh yeah? Okay, I can see that.
Because now every girl wants to touch that book, just like everyone in the DC universe wants to be with Nightwing. Except like Wonder Woman,
Well, not yet. Well, Wonder Woman probably sees him as the little brother, and that's hard to get. That's a hump hard to get over. You got that stereotype. You got that thing set in your mind. It's hard to get past. But you know what? Give him time. That's all I gotta say.
He'll
Give
win
him
her
time.
heart.
He will win her over.
What the holy hell are you two talking about?
We're talking about the awesomeness of Nightwing, Sean.
Well, the awesomeness of Nightwing and the awesomeness of him as Batman.
All I heard is you two talking about how you both want to date Nightwing or something like that.
Okay, and enough of the man love for Nightwing, and/or just his appreciation for his abilities as a stud. One of the things we want to talk about was that the new DCU MMO online kind of stuff.
I know, DC Universe Online, I'm so excited about that. It's just, it's the fact that I do have man love for some of these characters that I'll be glad that I'll be able to fight alongside them, and develop my own legend. And that's the tagline of the game is, who are you going to be in this world? It's not just City of Heroes where you develop as heroes. It's City of Heroes plus the mythos that is so deep that you could pick and choose where you want to enter and who you want to interact with. And I think the selling point to me was, yeah, you could be like Batman, but you have to be yourself.
Yeah.
You just...
And I understand, and I agree with you. And I love City of Heroes. I still play it, and I probably will continue playing it. But there is something about being able to be with these characters, interact, and just have action moments with them. Now, personally, I don't know about you, but I want to fly to the top of the Daily Planet. I want to stand up there. I want to, bust the Superman pose on top of the Daily Planet. I want to go into Gotham. I want to, go through. I want to go to Crime Alley. I want to just see what's there. Maybe, if I could somehow drop a rose, for, Bruce kind of deal. I don't know what you can do with it. But there's just, these are stuff that I want to do on top of play a cool game. Now, I don't know have you got a chance to do any of the sampling?
I did some of the sampling. I like the physics-based engine. I like that you could pick things up and use them, but then it also goes into how your character will act in that world if you use these. these items if you use the environment around you,
Yeah.
or if you're just going to go in there guns blazing like some people. And I think that's where I find the deepness of the character customization in that game. It's just, who are you going to be? You know, not everyone can be Batman.
Right.
And you know why. You know, so if you try to be like Batman, guess what? You're not going to be.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
Batman won't pick up a light pole and hit someone with it. You know? What'll happen the first time you see Doomsday? Will you, and you're a much lower level, are you going to jump into that fight as a hero, or are you going to hang back? You know? What are you going to do?
Okay, I guarantee I know what I'm going to do.
What are you going to do?
I'll probably hang back. Unless I got enough of a large enough crew going in with me, because you know how I am about calling for backup. I'll send out the word, see who responds. If I got enough people with me, then yeah, I'm charging in. But if it's just me, I ain't Superman, man. I know that for a fact.
But if you see the Man of Steel, like he's taking a pounding, and he's dishing it out too, and he's like a level, let's say the level cap is 50, and you're at a 7, are you even considering that?
You know what? If Soup is fighting Doomsday, I'm taking a shot at Doomsday. If I could do something to pull him off, give him a second hesitation or a pause, I'm going to do it. Because that's Superman. Now, if you're doing it, I'll flip a coin. Heads, I help Juan. Tails, I watch him die, and I record the whole thing and laugh about it later.
But, and then what happens when you die? Do you just, you know, what will happen to that legend? Or what happens, you know, what are the ramifications of you fighting someone that you're not on par with?
Yeah, I don't know how they're doing the whole life cycle and all that stuff. That's going to be curious to see. Because, you know, some of the stuff I've done with it, you know, I've played around with the fighting engine. It's very comfortable for me. I'm not a PlayStation 3 guy. I still haven't bought mine yet. I'm probably going to get it, but I was playing around with the controls. I was like, you know what? This is very comfortable for me. So I'm definitely going to get that system. That's the platform I'm going to go with. You know, so I don't know what happens when you die. I want to see stuff like that, see how they handle it and how they answer it.
You know, Johns is writing the backstory for this.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see if at one point there'll be an Infinite Crisis or Crisis on Multiple Earth type event where what happens when the need for your character doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
You know, what happens if Brainiac is stopped, you know, like the trailer was. You know, what are you going to do with your legend? You know, will they go on to DC Universe 2?
Right.
You know, where you just exist.
There's so many stuff they can do with this, you know, and they're doing a comic book with it as well. For you know,
I'm getting the collector's edition because I want that Batman statue.
Oh yeah, me too.
I will work a hot dog truck just to get that Batman statue. So seriously.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and did you play the Cap America game? I know this is a DC podcast, but you know.
No, I haven't played the Cap America.
Go hit the Sega booth. In fact, go right now.
Yeah, right. You've seen the crowd over there.
Yeah, I know. It's really tough to get here. I mean, you might have said it on multiple occasions, but you know, I'll take some pictures for people from high up so they could see just a massive swell of people here.
Yeah, I know.
And it's good for the business. It's good for us. It's good that people are in an environment where they may share experiences. And the more people that are talking about comics, like we are right now, the more the medium will get better.
Yeah, we tell people and we spread the word. This is, you know, yeah, there is this huge advertising going on. We got these great movies, great TV shows. But in the end, it is us, the geeks, who are spreading it out. We're telling people about it. You know, you see somebody, like, I've got a couple people at work that I've, you know, let them borrow some of my stuff just because they're like, oh, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. You know, hey, read it. You know, and a couple people have gotten into it. They're not diehard fans. They're not dressed up or not coming to cons, but they are interested in it, and you can pursue it that way. And you can find people of like mind and just who think this stuff is kind of cool and get them into it.
What I'm taking away from this is that no one's afraid to go back and be a kid again. I mean, look at the crowd that's walking in front of us. The mix is so great that it's fascinating. It's absolutely. I love it.
Amen. Amen, my friend.
And San Diego, watch out.
You know what? New York may be taking a piece of San Diego. I don't know. And this is looking like, you know, about the same kind of. I've never been to San Diego personally, so I'm only going by the television and, you know, the stories and whatnot that I've heard. But I'm going to throw this up against it as a solid comparison as to just the sheer crowd, the sheer volume, and just the sheer awesomeness of a con.
And when you go to Chicago, you know, it's being run by the same people.
Yeah.
Let me know. Let me know.
C2E2, man. It's, you know what? The first year of C2E2 was fun. It was a good con. You know, they had a nice layout, they had a nice setup, and everything was good. It was a good, you know, structure and everything. Plenty of room in the, you know, in the hallway, in the walkways, and just the various areas going to where the panels were. It was a nice layout. C2E2 definitely was a good, solid start. You know, attendance maybe probably was less than what they wanted, but you know what? It was a first year. For a first year, that was a great con. I look for really cool, great things coming out of C2E2.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I may be going to Chicago.
Outstanding. We'll see you there. Well, thanks for being on the show. As always, you're always welcome. You're a good friend of the show and a good friend, man. Appreciate it.
Well, for the Raging Bullets listener, if you get hit by a guy on DC Universe Online called Wadle, you know it's me. Come join my clan. What's up?
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes the Flash.
I actually want to read this real quick. It's from a listener named Michael from Manchester, New Hampshire. Hi, Sean. Thanks for the exceptional podcast. You and Jim are fun to listen to. That being unsaid, I unfortunately don't get to listen as often as I would like. You may have covered this in great detail in the past, but I would definitely like your input on this subject that's bothering me, so please have patience with me. I know that besides Hawkman, Batman is one of your favorite characters. He is mine as well, and I have been reading various Bat titles for many years. I am totally disappointed with how DC has handled Batman for a long time now. While Grant Morrison is a fine writer, he should be off the Batman titles. I gave up in total frustration midway through The Return of Bruce Wayne, and no longer have any Bat-related titles in my pull list. This depresses me because I have read multiple Bat titles since 1988. There have been peaks and valleys, but I've been on board through it all. But DC has, in my humble opinion, practically destroyed the Batman character and his mythos. It's one thing to tinker with the present continuity, it's another to totally rewrite the past with time travel elements that frankly make little to no sense whatsoever. I am totally okay with Batman involved in an event that involves time travel, aka 0 Hour, but this last disaster pushed me over the edge completely enough to drop all the titles. I would love to have your observations on this subject considering how long you yourself have been a fan. So if you have a free moment, when the feeling well, of course, I'd like your feedback on the state of the Batman overall. Thank you so much, and keep up the terrific work. And that's from Mike from Manchester, New Hampshire. Well, this is interesting. First of all, anytime we have these conversations, I a lot of times on the forums, on the show, and things like that, will give my perspective. It's in no way to say that you're wrong for feeling the way you do. You're a Batman reader. It's your buck. This is how you feel. I will say that the ending of Return to Bruce Wayne and how it tied into Batman and Robin and everything, it didn't change the Batman mythos. And a lot of what Morrison was doing, where it looks like he was rewriting history with the Wayne family, you have to see that it didn't turn out that way. And part of the ending of The Return of Bruce Wayne, which is something that you didn't get a chance to see, was Batman disproving what Dr. Hurt and characters like that were doing, if that's what you mean by changing the Batman mythos. And at the end of it, it actually, if anything, has further cemented the Batman mythos as far as Bruce's life and how it all came through. So the time travel, I don't think, ended the way you thought it was going to. And I'm sorry that you dropped off early, because I think if you would have seen the complete story, you would have seen, and it really isn't just the Return of Bruce Wayne story, but that is where some fundamental reveals, especially in the detective issue, where he's the detective, he's in that era, the PI, he comes in and we get some real resolution to what Morrison was doing in R.I.P. with the Wayne family and the smear campaign. And, you know, that what we thought we were seeing isn't necessarily what was going on. So I would suggest checking that out. I don't know that this is really a great time to drop the Batman titles, only because, I mean, maybe you do need a break. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's times where sometimes maybe just taking a breather and coming back later, you know, different writers always mean different eras. Right now, we are kicking off a very different era of Batman, with Dick Grayson being cemented in as the Batman of Gotham and Bruce Wayne doing this worldwide, and it's an adventure-style story, but we're still keeping the detective in there. I can't, to me, I just having read Batman Incorporated #1 and Bruce Wayne, or Batman The Return, I can't, he couldn't be more Bruce than he is now. It's actually a lot of what I've always liked about him throughout my entire exposure with him. So I don't know. I don't really have a set answer for you other than to say that I've found this to be an incredibly satisfying journey. I do like, one of the distinctions I do like is a lot of the Bat titles are very different. I'm curious to read David Finch's title to see what that tone is like. I would suggest, rather than trying to drop the entire family, if you find that Grant Morrison's writing of Batman isn't what you like, maybe try some of the other books that are coming out, because there's some big direction changes. Is it just Bruce Wayne as Batman, or do you not like Dick Grayson being Batman? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is going to be. Maybe try Finch's book and see if that's for you, though, because I have a funny feeling that's going to be its own flavor and its own look at Bruce, and maybe his presentation of it will be something you'll find satisfying. Or maybe keep Confidential, because Confidential is definitely its own piece. And, that's a great way to get your Batman fix if you're not liking the current continuity stuff. I'm sorry you're not enjoying it the way I am, because I'm really digging it. I think that they're evolving the Batman mythos without losing what makes it so cool, because there's been some great beats lately where it's gone back to the past of the Batman and brought them into the present day in a very cool way. And I'm not talking about time travel. I'm talking about like things that are going on with Red Robin that we mentioned earlier in the episode, like the fact that going to Crime Alley and taking that theater and Tim's going to be using that as a base of operations. And, obviously the Batcave's going to be coming into play now with Bruce back. And what's that going to look like with the jet setting around? But we know that we're going to be getting stories with him taking place in Gotham in David Finch's books. It's too soon for me to say how I feel about Bruce's return 100% and how he is in the mythos. I will say the first issue of Batman Incorporated for me, though, was very, very satisfying. And that issue completely took place with him out of Gotham. And I was curious to see how I felt about that. And it was really, totally dead on, spot on, I thought, Bruce Wayne as Batman. And I'm really digging what happened there. And Catwoman appears in the story and played off tremendously the relationship of Batman and Catwoman. So if there's an issue that I would say you should give a shot, maybe if you want to jump ahead of this whole thing, grab Batman Incorporated #1, give that book a shot and a read-through. Maybe that'll change the way how you view what Morrison's doing right now with Batman, and you might want to check some of the stuff that predates it. But that would be a recommended starting point for me. And if you don't like that, try Finch's book to see if it's going to be different for you. It's hard for me to comment on Finch's book because it's not out yet. But I do think that DC's strength right now when it comes to Batman is that besides the Bruce books, the Dick Grayson books, and it was something that was consistent when Dick Grayson was Batman, each book has its own unique flavor. They're letting the creative teams, instead of being, restrained by what each other's doing, do their own stories that thematically touch on, the greater story that's going on in the Batman universe without, but they're able to do complete, Tony Daniels' work on Batman, for example, is a great one where he was writing Dick Grayson there. I thought the story arc he had running there was tremendous. I really liked it a lot. And yet there was a unique and interesting story going on in Batman and Robin as well. So I don't know. It's very hard for me to, I don't want to dispute you because, you obviously have very strong feelings this way, but to give you an honest answer to the question, do I like what they're doing with Batman right now? 100%. I've read him since my childhood, and I think he's been so compelling since his return. And I'm talking about post the return of Bruce Wayne's storyline. How all that wrapped up and seeing Bruce back now and with everybody has made me convinced that not just Morrison, the whole creative team who is working with Batman right now really understands what Bruce's role is and his relationship is with the Batman family and those characters, and just how he provides a very different vibe as Batman than Dick Grayson does. And that's something, if you're going to keep more than one Batman and you're going to go this route, you've really got to show the distinction of Bruce Wayne and what makes him tick. And I'm finding that very satisfying right now. So my personal feeling is that you jumped off too early. You didn't let the storyline finish. Now, when you get to the end of the storyline, you may still feel the same way. And if you do, I can't dispute that. My rule of thumb with people, though, is always please don't drop off at the middle of a storyline. Give it to the end. And if you can't, then, that's your choice and nothing wrong with making that decision. But I don't think you can fully appreciate what the author's doing. Return of Bruce Wayne, I feel I didn't understand what was going on until we got towards the end. Then everything from the beginning made a lot more sense to me. But I expect that from Morrison's writing. And it sounds like your issues directly with Grant Morrison. I wouldn't drop the entire bat line for Grant Morrison, though. I would, say that particular author and that particular author's style is not what you're liking. And hopefully, I guess I would love some of your opinions, because you specifically mentioned Morrison's work. What have you felt about the other Batman writers who've been writing the other books? Because they are different than Morrison's book. So I guess that's kind of my take on that. If you don't like Morrison, what about the other writers? And maybe you are feeling the same way about them as well. So that's kind of my confusion on some of your comments is really, I wouldn't drop a whole line based on one writer. I would drop one book based on one writer. Or, 2 books, in the case of the fact that he was running the mini and Batman and Robin. I noticed you didn't say anything about Batman and Robin, though. Did you not like that book? Did you not like Dick and Damian and what they were doing there? I guess that's something I would love to hear as well. What do you think of Dick Grayson as Batman? Did you like him in the role? So you left me with a lot of interesting questions based on your comments, and I'm hoping that you'll hear this and maybe we'll get a follow-up from you. As far as, what parts, was there any of it that you were liking, or was it just across the board you didn't like the whole concept at all? In which case, maybe, this whole Batman Inc. thing might not be your cup of tea. I definitely have a follow-up. So thanks a lot for that email.
Oh, no, you don't!
Once again, our sponsors for this episode, of course, are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, 45% off all of DC's monthly books this month. It's a great deal. It's a great chance to look across the lines and get yourself some amazing deals. And actually, that's not just DC Comics line. You'll see that many of the titles that they're offering are at 45% off this month as a special promotion. So definitely check out DCBService.com and take advantage of that. I really wanted to spotlight that this month because it's great for people who are like, geez, when is that time where I can start trying out this service? And this would be a good month to do it with the special promotion going on. Over at InStockTrades.com, I want to remind everyone to check out the Batman, the Brave and the Bold comic. They have the second trade paperback collecting issues 7 to 12 with Green Arrow, Catman, Doom Patrol, characters like that. And wonderful villains that we're used to. It's a great series, and it's an amazing price if you haven't been checking it out. It's $12.99 regularly, 38% off, only $8.05. It's 128 pages for that price, and some great creators are involved with that book, so definitely check that out if you haven't. Also want to remind everyone we are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Our next episode, Jim, we don't know what we're doing next episode. Green Lantern Corps for sure. I'd like to get Myron Rumsey on, and definitely talk some Green Lantern Corps. We have a number of books that you and I have been rattling off today that we'd like to chat about. So I'm going to wait till next week and kind of see after we get the new books out what we'd like to chat about out of the books that have already been released and the new ones that are coming out. So please check the show notes of the next episode to see what books we're going to talk about. One of the things that's coming up in the next month, we're going to be doing a book-by-book look at the back titles. Going back to kind of our roots of the show, where you and I did the two-man show where it's looking at every single bat title and comparing them, talking about which ones we like more. And the answers are, I'm assuming, very similar to when this happened when Dick Grayson took over. Our answers are going to be different as far as, which Batman are we liking more? Do you feel the same way that I do? When we started Raging Bullets, it really was looking at a book-by-book look at the entire DC line. We're not going to be able to do that. But we're going to look at the whole Batman line, specifically the Bruce books and the Dick Grayson books that are being released. And which ones are favorite? I'm going to be curious to see, because I don't know. I've been loving Dick Grayson as Batman. So I'm curious to see if I feel the way I'm going to... Because I guess I'm assuming my preference is going to be towards Bruce.
But you never know.
I don't know.
We don't know, yeah.
Because the creative teams that are being, handed out for the Dick Grayson books look really rock solid as well. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to go on with each of those titles. And even if, let's say we both pick a Dick Grayson title as our favorite, are we going to pick the same one?
And for the same reason.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah. Definitely looking forward to seeing where
it'd be
plays
fun.
out.
It'd be fun to get down to what's our favorite title overall out of those, but then also talk about what's our favorite Bruce title, what's our favorite Dick Grayson title, and see if we compare on those as well, because we can actually break them down to the two categories. So it'll be a fun exploration of those, and hopefully it'll help our listeners, even if they disagree with our reasoning, make some choices if they're trying to pick and choose on these books, which ones they pick. So hopefully that might be, it might be helpful in that case. Also be fun to see what the listeners feel.
Yeah.
Because maybe you and I will pick some titles and they'll completely disagree. We will see everyone next week.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and loss and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman. Eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan. And what you do to me, Hawkman. Egyptian, working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier